Chapter 563. Spender knew Druffet very well. He needed to pull this kind of person into his camp so that he could have more say in the organization. The first organization, Pyramid. The second organization, Crusader Consortium. The third organization, Stygian Club. Spender's eyes were full of ambition when he mentioned the names of these three forces. He tapped the ground heavily with his walking stick and said, "The Pyramid and the Alliance of the Conglomerates of the Crusaders. You don't need to know about these two organizations for now. Even my understanding of them is very limited. The Stygian Club I belong to is composed of secret forces from 39 countries around the world. Our YDL has two forces that are qualified to join. The first is my family, and the second is the Merston family." Druffet frowned and asked in a deep voice, "What are the benefits of joining the Stygian Club?" "You can control small forces or families affiliated to a country through business," said Spender. "I understand about business, but I don't quite understand about controlling small forces and families affiliated to a country," said Druffet. Spender said meaningfully, "Let's make an example. If you have your eyes on a small force or family and want them to work for your Tsubwa clan, you can secretly attack them. If you're afraid that you won't be able to make them bow down easily, you can apply to the Stygian Club for financial or armed forces to help. According to the rules, you need to take out 1/10 of the family's wealth and hand it over to the force that helps you." Druffet's pupils shrunk and a horrified feeling rose inside his heart. Never did he expect that there was such a terrifying organization in the world. With such a complicated entanglement of power and such a terrifying force, wouldn't it be very difficult for any force or family to resist if they were to be targeted? "Give me some time. I need to think about it." Druffet was silent for a long time before he slowly said. Spender nodded with a smile and said, "It's such an important matter. Even if you want to make a decision, I'm afraid you'll have to talk to the rest of your Tsubwa clan first. You have plenty of time, so you can find me at any time after you've made your decision. I look forward to having more cooperation with you in the future." "No problem." Druffet nodded without a word. After seeing Spender off, Druffet pondered for a long time as a handsome young man from the east gradually appeared in his mind. After smoking a few cigarettes, he decided to build a good relationship with the everlasting feast hall in the east. After all, he needed to have a deeper relationship with such a terrifying hidden force. That would be the best. They could cooperate in some aspects. Shanghai. Tan Xiao and Kong Xia stood quietly at the corner of the bustling street, looking at the long queue tens of meters away with a smile on their faces. The magnificent Tang Corporation's products were now recognized by the people all over the country. Whether it was cosmetics or God's nectar, all of them were very popular. The promotion of the health products had begun as early as 2 months ago. Now, the people of the country knew the effect of the magnificent Tang Corp's health products. There were too many rich people these days, but there were even more people who were almost emptied. Therefore, just the effect of nourishing yin and kidney to treat impotence was enough to make everyone go crazy. Tang. Tang Xiao glanced at Kong Xia and asked with a smile. "Kong Tang," Tang said. "Tang, Kong Tang. Unexpectedly, Druffet, star. I never thought that many customers would and drew red by. I didn't. I don't think I need to stay here anymore." "You're right. It's the same whether you come or not." Tan Xiao said, "If the sales are good, the sales will be good even if you're not here. If not, the sales will still be a problem even if you stay here every day. Tell those people you brought to stay and help. Let's go back and wait for the news." Kong Xia complied and made a call for a while. Then, she followed Tan Xiao back to Blue Star Villa Complex. Kong Xia, however, was still not completely relieved despite the fact that one of the specialty stores in Shanghai was bustling with customers, even though she was very satisfied with it. She stayed in Tang Xiao's study room and paid attention to the sales feedback with the magnificent Tang Corporation's top executives through an online video call. Tan Xiao didn't stay at home to accompany her, but was called out by a phone call. Downstairs of Shanghai University, Han Qingwu was sitting in the front passenger seat of a red car, her eyes a bit blurred. It was obvious that she was not in a good mood. Only when she came back to her senses and glanced in the direction of the university's gate did she reveal a touch of expectation. The front passenger seat's door was knocked. After Tan Xiao opened the door and took a seat, he looked at Han Qingwu's face and smilingly asked, "When did you come back?" "I just came back yesterday," said Han Qingwu softly. Seeing that she was not in a good mood, Tan Xiao curiously asked, "What's wrong? Are you blaming me for not calling you back with me?" Han Qingwu shook her head and said, "Xiao Xue said that you had an urgent matter and went to the imperial capital. I don't know when you can return to Shanghai." "Then why are you in a bad mood?" asked Tan Xiao. Han Qingwu was silent for a moment and then said, "My parents forced me to go on a blind date last night. He's the son of an old comrade in arms. He's very handsome and has a good temperament. He's a senior official of a large foreign company with a 7-digit annual salary, a car, and a house. But I don't know why I don't have any feelings for him. I even found that I don't have any feelings for any man except for you." This situation started after this year's freshman welcoming party of Shanghai University. Tan Xiao frowned and pointed to his head and asked, "Is it because of those images?" "It should be." Han Qingwu nodded and said, But, Tan Xiao said, "Just tell me what's on your mind." "Actually, there's something I didn't tell you," said Han Qingwu bitterly. "It's not only those images that appeared in my head. The song you played and sang at the freshman welcoming party that night also pulled me into a new world. I saw some unimaginable scenes. I saw a man whose face I couldn't see, only his back." Tan Xiao's expression changed and he asked in a deep voice, "What scenes?" Han Qingwu covered her face and chest. Her complexion was a bit pale as she said, "I saw a woman who looks very much like me do something that made her regret it. I saw a man whose face I couldn't see being besieged and killed by others in a doomsday world. It was like a scene from a fantasy movie. The woman who looked very much like me killed the man she regretted and felt sorry for, and then committed suicide next to that man." "Suicide?" Tan Xiao's heart trembled and disbelief filled his eyes. He was perfectly aware of what Han Qingwu meant. That doomsday scene should be the scene when he crossed his tribulation. He was besieged by his best friends and Xue Qingqing. How could Xue Qingqing commit suicide? Shouldn't she feel happy because of her greed and selfishness to obtain the heavenly art of cosmic genesis? "I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first." Tan Xiao's complexion was faintly pale. He looked as though he had lost his soul as he pushed the door open and staggered toward the campus gate. He didn't even look back even though Han Qingwu hurriedly chased after him and called him. Suicide. This word filled his heart like a curse, making him unable to understand the reason. They obviously loved each other, but she attacked him. Her goal was achieved, but she committed suicide. Tan Xiao returned to the Blue Star Villa complex in a daze. He didn't even go to the study to see Kang Xia. He went straight back to the bedroom and sat on the bedside, smoking one cigarette after another. When he was about to finish a pack of cigarettes, the bedroom door was pushed open, and Kang Xia's exclamation came. "Boss, why do you smoke so much?" Tang Xiao woke up from his daze. He looked at Kang Xia and then lowered his head to look at the cigarette but that was about to burn out between his fingers. A bitter and astringent taste swayed inside his heart as he extinguished the cigarette butt in the ashtray and walked towards Kang Xia with the smell of smoke all over his body. He reached out and hugged her. He didn't use much strength, but it was as if he wanted to integrate Kang Xia into his body. The shallow warmth of Kang Xia's body seemed to illuminate his confused heart. After a long time, Kang Xia gently raised her head and looked at Tan Xiao. Her eyes were closed, and a light snore could be heard. A strange expression appeared on her beautiful face. She fell asleep? How could she fall asleep standing up? Kang Xia wanted to move, but she was held by Tan Xiao. Although his strength was much smaller than before, she was still afraid of waking up Tan Xiao. After hesitating for a moment, she could only stand like this and let Tan Xiao hold her. At the same time, she silently controlled the warm current in her body and began to circulate it according to the cultivation method route taught to her by Tan Xiao. A few minutes later, Kang Xia was surprised to find that she could feel a trace of cool air drilling into her body while being held by Tan Xiao. Eventually, It poured into her dantian. After the warm current in her meridians returned to her dantian, it finally merged into one. Time flew by. 2 hours quickly passed by. Kang Xia, who was held by Tan Xiu, maintained a standing posture, but the surprise in her heart was getting stronger and stronger. Because she was shocked to find that this cultivation speed was many times faster than her own cultivation speed. In just 2 hours, the flow of qi in her body had nearly doubled. What made her feel the most inconceivable was that before, she needed to concentrate and put all of her energy into mobilizing that warm current. But now, she felt that her control over that warm current had increased by many times. What's going on? Is it because of Tan Xiu? Kang Xia thought for a moment and finally suppressed this thought at the bottom of her heart. She didn't want to waste time. Since the current cultivation effect was so good, she must seize every minute and second to cultivate. After all, Andy's strength was already very strong, at least 10 times stronger than her. If she didn't catch up with Andy soon, it would be difficult for her to raise her head in front of Tan Xiu. Chapter 564. He slept in a standing position with Kang Xia's body almost as the center. This lasted for a long time. After 3 or 4 hours, Tan Xiu woke up from his deep sleep. Feeling a cool aura surging around him, he opened his eyes and saw Kang Xia's beautiful face at first glance. I fell asleep? Tan Xiu found it a bit inconceivable. Kang Xia's cultivation was interrupted. She opened her starry eyes and smilingly said, "Yeah, you really fell asleep. You slept standing up like that." Tan Xiu forced an awkward smile and said, "I encountered something confusing, so I'm not in a good mood." "I didn't expect that." "That's right, the fluctuation of the heaven and earth spiritual energy in the surroundings is because you're cultivating, right?" Kang Xia blinked and then separated herself from Tan Xiu's embrace. She ran 5 or 6 meters away and directly sat on the ground, regardless of whether the ground was dirty or not. 2 minutes later, she stood up in a daze and looked at the puzzled Tan Xiu and said, "It's really strange. My cultivation speed is so fast when I'm hugging you. I don't know how much faster it is compared to my own cultivation. But after I let go of you, my cultivation has returned to its original state." "What did you say?" Tan Xiu stared blankly and immediately asked in surprise. "My cultivation speed is fast when I'm hugging you, but it's very slow when I'm not hugging you. It's only been a few hours, but the warm current in my body has doubled. The most important thing is that it has become easier for me to control it." Tan Xiu looked down at himself and pondered for a moment before he understood the reason. His current cultivation was already very high, and he was constantly absorbing the power of the stars and the power of the sun. Because the heaven and earth spiritual energy was the medium, the heaven and earth spiritual energy around him was much richer than other places. Kang Xia cultivating beside him was equivalent to suddenly going to a place where the concentration of the heaven and earth spiritual energy had skyrocketed several times, so her cultivation speed was naturally a lot faster. Immediately after Tan Xiu told her the reason, Kang Xia was not startled but happy instead. She very rarely pestered Tan Xiu and made Tan Xiu promise to let her stay by his side more in the future. "That's right, how's the sales of our new product?" Tan Xiu recalled this matter and quickly asked. Upon hearing this question, a smile bloomed on Kang Xia's beautiful face and she exclaimed in admiration, "The feedback from the exclusive stores all over the country is that the slowest one only took 2.5 hours to sell out all the health products." Tan Xiu was stunned and sighed. "It seems that Long Jinglin really gave me a good idea." Then he sighed and said, "Long Jinglin has given me a good idea. After you return to Star City, give him his dividends according to the proportion of his shares." The Yao family and the Tang family were sworn enemies, and all the families with a bit of power in the country knew about this situation. The news that the Tang family had forced Yao Qingzuan to his death and destroyed the Yao family's force was naturally spread like wildfire. However, the Tang family didn't announce anything to the public. The information recorded in the Yao family's file was also secretly released by Tang Yunqing's people. It was even guaranteed that no force or family would be able to investigate the Tang family. Those people don't want us to exterminate the Yao family, so we'll just sit on the fishing platform and watch the changes in the imperial capital. The Yao family, if we don't pull out the roots, they'll grow again when the spring breeze blows. Who knows what kind of talent the Yao family will have in the future? To what extent will they slowly recover? Leaving this family alive will always be a scourge. Tang Guosho heavily nodded and said, Big Brother is right. The Yao family's heritage is too deep. We must cut off their path of retreat as much as possible and make them unable to recover from this setback. Tang Guosheng also sighed. If it weren't for the Yao family being too powerful all these years and offending too many people, I'm afraid no one would take the initiative to stand up against them even if we used that file. The sins of the heavens can be forgiven, but the sins brought upon oneself are the hardest to bear. While the three elders of the Tang family were talking, the mobile phone placed in front of Tang Guosheng suddenly rang. Speak. Tang Guosheng looked at the caller ID and immediately spoke in a deep voice. Elder Tang, a junior of the Yao family, Yao Xindi, was seriously injured by a junior of the Wang family and has been sent to the hospital for treatment. At the same time, Yao Xindi's father, Yao Qingheng, was hit by a car that rushed into a roadside specialty store. He can't be saved. A deep and low voice came from the phone. Tang Guosheng's pupils shrunk. He was silent for 2 minutes before he slowly said, Continue to track the information. I need to know everything about the Yao family as soon as possible. Understood. After hanging up the phone, Tang Guosheng looked at the others and said, The first family jumped out and moved against the Yao family. Yao Qingheng was hit and his son, Yao Xindi, was seriously injured by a junior of the Wang family. It seems that aside from our Tang family, the one who hates the Yao family the most is the Wang family. Interesting. It's really interesting. Tang Guosho let out a strange smile. I once heard that Yao Qingheng had a grudge with a young man of the Wang family during the construction of Jinhua Mall. They fought several times and the one who finally suffered a loss was that young man of the Wang family. I have a feeling that the Wang family doesn't have the guts to deal with the Yao family alone. I'm afraid that the Wang family has a cooperation agreement with one or more families. Just wait and see. I'm sure someone will jump out and move against the Yao family soon. Sure enough. Less than an hour after Yao Qingheng was hit and Yao Xindi was beaten, a high-class clubhouse in the eastern fourth ring suddenly caught fire. An important member of the Yao family who was in charge of the clubhouse died in the fire. At the same time, 7 or 8 experts of the Yao family and 2 accountants were also burned to death. Shortly after, a certain group company controlled by the Yao family was investigated by the inspection agency for tax evasion and fire safety problems. Eventually, it was forced to close down for rectification. A construction site controlled by the Yao family was raided and found to have serious quality problems. The workers were driven away and the site was sealed. A series of measures were taken against the project, giving the Yao family a heavy blow. The bad news about the Yao family fluttered to the Tang family like snowflakes. In just 2 days, the Yao family suffered huge losses. It was said that the new head of the Yao family, Yao Chengdong, was so worried that his hair turned white overnight. Tan Xiu, who was in Shanghai, had been paying attention to the situation in the imperial capital. He had already guessed that the Yao family wouldn't be able to survive this when the Wang family was the first to move against them. As for the enemy, Tang Xiu never had any compassion. If it weren't for the suppression from the old patriarch's superiors, he would have already eliminated the Yao family without needing to borrow a knife to do his dirty work. Now, without wasting any of his strength, the Yao family was already on the verge of collapse. Tan Xiu was happy to see this. In the male dormitory of Shanghai University. As Tan Xiu hung up the phone and was in a good mood, Hu Qingsong ran in from the outside and saw Tan Xiu sitting in front of the bookshelf. He immediately asked, Big Bro Tang, I'm going out to buy something. Are you going with me? What are you going to buy? Asked Tan Xiu. Don't worry about what I'm going to buy. Just give me a straightforward answer. Do you want to go with me? I guarantee you'll be satisfied with the place we're going. Tan Xiu put away his mobile, got up and smilingly said, Since you said so, then I'll go with you. If I'm not satisfied with the place we're going, you'll have to treat me to dinner. No problem. Hu Qingsong puffed out his chest and guaranteed. Today's third chapter is presented to you. Seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 565. Shanghai's Wanmao Shopping Center was located in the most prosperous commercial street in Hongkou District, also known as the Fortune Plaza. Each of the stores inside took the international high-end route. Apart from a large number of luxury goods, there were also many famous brands from all over the world. Hu Qingsong drove Tan Xiu here and went straight to the clothing area on the fourth floor. Hu Qingsong didn't stop even for a moment as he passed by the world-famous clothing stores. He went all the way to the innermost side of the women's underwear store, only then did he stop with some hesitation. "Old Hu, is this the place you said that I'm satisfied with?" Tan Xiu was dumbfounded as he looked at the dazzling lineup of underwear inside. He was simply dazzled to the point of being dazzled. Especially those sexy lingerie with all kinds of colors and styles, it made Tang Xiu secretly blush when he saw them. He had never been to such a place in his life, or even his previous life. Hu Qingsong awkwardly said, "I recently got a girlfriend, and I just took her first blood yesterday. It just so happens that tomorrow is her birthday, so I wanted to give her a unique gift." Yu Kai was the one who came up with the idea to give her a set of sexy underwear. Cough, cough. Tan Xiu really felt defeated by Hu Qingsong. Yu Kai's rotten idea actually made him think that it was something else? Had he known earlier that Hu Qingsong would come to such a place, he wouldn't have come even if he was invited to 100 meals. At this time, this brand of underwear was called Corinne Gilson. It was a luxury underwear brand from Europe. The founder was a high-end custom-made underwear designer from Belgium, who founded the underwear brand with the same name in 1994. She was very particular about the choice of materials, and was famous for only using the best quality silk from Lyon and lace from Calais as the fabric. Most of the classic pieces of Corinne Gilson were drawn from feminine soft colors, such as rust, crimson, orange, cappuccino white, and old rose. In addition, its price was also very expensive. Even a pair of underwear started from $240, and a set of pajamas cost more than $1,360. Hu Qingsong paced outside the shop with a hesitant expression. Tan Xiu really wanted to turn around and leave, but after seeing Hu Qingsong's appearance, he endured the strange gazes of many women passing by and braced himself to say, "Old Hu, if you really want to buy a set of underwear for your girlfriend, then go buy it." As a man, he might not have other things, but he had to be thick-skinned. "I'll support you in spirit, but I won't go in with you. I'm addicted to smoking. I'll find a place to smoke and wait for you." Hu Qingsong was dumbfounded. How could he not hear that Tan Xiu was running away at the last minute? Steeling his heart, he strode forward to block Tang Xiu's path and forcefully pulled him into the store. "Welcome." A beautiful female shop assistant with a graceful figure greeted him with a professional smile. She seemed to be accustomed to men visiting the underwear store. She smiled warmly and said, "Gentlemen, I'm a shop assistant. What kind of underwear do you want to buy? Also, may I ask if you want to give it to?" "It's my girlfriend's birthday tomorrow. I don't know what kind of underwear girls like," said Hu Qingsong awkwardly. "How about you recommend it to me?" The shop assistant led the two men inside and asked with a smile, "May I ask how old your girlfriend is? What's her 3 measurements?" Hu Qingsong answered the shop assistant's question with only half of his knowledge. Tan Xiu took advantage of this time to hide at the side. He wanted to take out a cigarette and smoke a few times to dispel the embarrassment in his heart. But after seeing the no smoking sign in this shop, he had no choice but to bitterly find a sofa and sit down. "Big sis, did you see that? That boy over there, and the one sitting in front of us, both of them went to this women's lingerie store to buy lingerie. Do you think they're gay?" 2 young and beautiful girls, who were dressed fashionably, stood not far from Tang Xiu and whispered, "I don't think so. It should be a boy accompanying another boy to buy underwear for a girl, right? But the boy sitting there is quite handsome, and I think he's a bit familiar." "It's true. I also think he's a bit familiar. I think I've seen him somewhere. He's so handsome. Do you think we should look for him and take a photo with him? Maybe he'll be discovered by an entertainment company's talent scout in the future. He'll be excavated and trained to become a big star." The big star? Oh my god. I remember now. He's Tan Xiao, a freshman at Shanghai University. He's the one who played the zither and sang at this year's freshman welcoming party. That's right, I remember he's a doctor, the young divine doctor of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. I also remember now. How come the two girls' conversation was getting louder and louder, and many women in the store heard it. In just a few minutes, everyone, including the 7 or 8 shop assistants, surrounded Tan Xiao and pointed at him while whispering. Some of the bolder women even showed an eager expression, hoping to get acquainted with Tan Xiao. Qin Shaowan had been in a bad mood recently. She was from the Human Resources Department of a dignified multinational corporation. Not only was she a Ms. Perfect, but she also had strong means and connections. In the eyes of countless women, she was a successful woman with a high profile. However, when she thought so, she bumped into the scene of her boyfriend and her good sister having an illicit affair. She was incomparably proud, and it was very difficult for her to bear the result of being cuckolded. However, she didn't cry, nor did she throw a tantrum, nor did she have the thread to hang herself. Instead, she endured the pain in her heart, said a few words of blessing and then left. If this matter had ended here, she wouldn't have been in such a bad mood for such a long time. What shocked her the most was that her boyfriend, who had cuckolded her, humbly apologized to her and begged for her forgiveness. In the end, when he didn't get what he wanted, his attitude took a 180-degree turn. Not only did he insult her, but he also wanted her to pay for it. The reason was mental damage compensation, loss of youth compensation. After Qin Shaowan sternly refused, she also threatened to call the police and finally got rid of her ex-boyfriend. However, she was still holding back the grievances and pain in her heart. After staying at home for 10 days and half a month, the holiday was finally coming to an end, and she was ready to go shopping. However, when she stepped into the Corinne Gilson exclusive store and saw the scene inside, she immediately frowned. She was about to turn around and leave, but the moment she stepped out of the store, she coincidentally saw her ex-scumbag boyfriend. What made her angrier was that her ex-scumbag boyfriend's arm was actually being held by an obese woman in her 40s. She nearly vomited when she saw the lovey-dovey appearance of the two of them. This was the truest portrayal of Qin Shaowan's heart. Therefore, she retreated back and moved closer to the crowd inside. "Hey, handsome, shall we take a picture together?" A bold woman finally plucked up the courage to come before Tan Xiao and spoke with a face full of expectation. Tan Xiao had just heard the discussion of this group of women, but he didn't expect that someone would actually come to take a picture with him. Looking at the sexy lingerie on both sides, Tan Xiao didn't even lift his buttocks as he said with a wry smile, "Big sis, isn't it inappropriate to take a picture here?" The woman stared blankly and suddenly realized that they were in a store that sold women's lingerie. She immediately blushed and said, "I'm really sorry. How about we go out and take a picture? I know you're the young divine doctor, Tan Xiao, and also a star student of Shanghai University. Being able to take a picture with such a capable and handsome man like you will definitely make me very happy." Cough. Tan Xiao really didn't want to take a picture with the woman in front of him, despite the fact that she was quite beautiful. With his IQ, he could naturally guess that if he took a picture with her, other women would flock to him and attract more people's attention. It was very likely that the news of him accompanying his classmate to buy lingerie would be exposed on the internet. Fate might be destined by the heavens. Just as Tan Xiao was somewhat at a loss, a coarse and coquettish voice of a woman came from outside the store. "Darling, this Corinne Gilson's lingerie is very good. Some of the sexy lingerie is very beautiful. Do you think I should buy a few sets and wear them for you when I go back?" "Okay. You'll definitely look very beautiful in them," said Yu Zigang with a fake smile while being held by the obese middle-aged woman. He even imagined the fat woman wearing the sexy lingerie and had goosebumps all over his body. If it weren't for this woman being very rich and extremely generous, he would have kicked her away and found another woman. "Honey, you're such a sweet talker." The obese woman was overjoyed and wanted to kiss Yu Zigang. But since she was less than 1.6 meters tall, she couldn't even reach Yu Zigang's face, who was more than 1.8 meters tall. Thus, she hurriedly pulled his arm and made him squat down a bit. Yu Zigang glanced at the store and found that many women didn't look back. He quickly squatted down with a flattering smile and took the initiative to offer his lips. Kiss. After a loud kiss, the obese woman walked inside with a satisfied expression. Yu Zigang didn't notice it, and neither did the woman. Chen Xiaowan, who had been secretly observing the two of them in the crowd inside, almost vomited out of disgust. After a while, Yu Zigang followed the obese woman inside. Although Chen Xiaowan tried her best to avoid him, he still saw her. Yu Zigang, who wanted to show how outstanding he was in front of the obese woman, suddenly had a bright idea, and a brilliant idea emerged in his mind. He immediately grabbed the obese woman's arm and hugged her in his arms. Then he deliberately shouted, "Hey, isn't this Chen Xiaowan I just got rid of? Why did you come to such a high-end lingerie store to buy things?" Chapter 566. The sudden voice broke the strange atmosphere and rescued Tan Xiao from the awkwardness. At this moment, all the women around Tan Xiao turned to look at Yu Zigang and the fat woman. Even Tan Xiao was no exception. However, a sentence involuntarily emerged in everyone's mind after seeing the pair in front of them. Tender grass growing on cow dung? Indeed. Yu Zigang was a good-looking man with a height of more than 1.8 meters and a well-proportioned figure, as though he was born to be a clothes rack. Coupled with his handsome appearance, he could win the favor of many women at first sight. However, all the women around Tan Xiao didn't like Yu Zigang at all. On the contrary, a sense of disgust was birthed in their hearts. Chen Xiaowan was a bit driven crazy. The person she didn't want to see the most was Yu Zigang. But the more she didn't want to see him, the more she could see him. The most unbearable thing for her was that this man who occupied her youth for several years turned out to be a complete bastard. She didn't speak because she felt that even talking to Yu Zigang would be a waste of her time and saliva. Seeing that she couldn't avoid him, she directly chose to leave. "Don't go. When will you pay me back the money you owe me?" Yu Zigang moved 2 steps to the side and blocked Chen Xiaowan's way. Chen Xiaowan furrowed her brows and said with disgust and helplessness, "Can you not be so shameless, Yu Zigang? I've been buying things for you all these years. I even gave you the money to drink with your friends. Now that we've broken up, you still want me to compensate you for the mental damage and loss of youth? Are you still a human?" Yu Zigang looked angry and released the fat woman in his arms. He pointed at Chen Xiaowan and cursed, "I've been serving you so well. Who's the one who's been waiting for you after work every day? Who's the one who's been waiting for you downstairs of your company? You spent money? How much money did you spend for me? You're such a stingy bastard. You're so stingy, yet you come here and don't buy other people's clothes. Are you pretending to be a wolf with a big tail?" Chen Xiaowan's heart seemed to be stabbed by a knife, and tears of grievance welled up in her eyes. She knew Yu Zigang was shameless, but she didn't expect him to be shameless to this extent. With a curious look, the fat woman said, "Dear, is this the ex-girlfriend who cheated on you and made you a cuckold? Look at her, she really does look like a coquettish fox. You're already so good in bed, but you still can't satisfy her. You're really cheap." Yu Zigang was stunned. He did not expect the fat woman to say such a thing. His handsome face instantly revealed an unnatural expression. However, he did not refute her, which meant that he agreed with her. Disbelief could be seen in Chen Xiaowan's tearful eyes. She was so angry that her lips trembled. She pointed at Yu Zigang and cursed, "Are you still human, Yu Zigang? How could you be so shameless? You and my best friend were clearly together. Not only did I catch you in bed, but you even slandered me for having an affair. You're shameless." An impatient look appeared on Yu Zigang's face as he coldly snorted and said, "Cut the crap. In any case, since we've met today, hurry up and pay me back the money you owe me. I've already given you a discount of 100,000 yuan." Each and every one of the women in the surroundings looked angry. They were all discerning people, so how could they not figure out the whole story? It turned out that this man named Yu Zigang cheated on his girlfriend. After breaking up, he shamelessly asked the girl to compensate him for the mental damage and loss of youth. Such a man, how shameless could he be? A woman looked at Chen Xiaowan's tearful appearance and angrily shouted, "Today is an eye-opener for me. A man cheated on his girlfriend, and after breaking up, he actually asked his girlfriend for mental damage and loss of youth. He's really shameless." That's right. The heavens are really blind. Otherwise, why didn't they strike him to death with a bolt of lightning? People usually break up on good terms, but he dragged another woman to slander his ex-girlfriend. It's too despicable and shameless. Another woman couldn't help but blurt out, "Yeah, I've seen a lot of despicable and shameless men, but I've never seen one as shameless to this extent. He's just a scumbag. Whoever likes him in the future is really blind." There's also that fat woman beside him. She's just as shameless. Is this the sign of birds of the same feather? What a shameless couple. The man is a thief and the woman is a whore. More than 20 women in the surroundings spoke one after another. Tan Xiao, who was sitting on the sofa, looked at Chen Xiaowan with some sympathy. He didn't expect that such a beautiful woman would have such a shameless ex-boyfriend and had such an unbearable past. However, he didn't feel like saying anything more about her matter. Yu Zigong never dreamed that he would be accused and cursed by so many people. The burning sensation on his face made him wish he could find a hole to burrow into. His original intention was to prove in front of his new rich woman that he was tired of playing with Miss Perfect and that he was very outstanding. Little did he expect that he would end up in such a situation. The fat woman was obviously not someone who was easy to deal with. Looking at the women pointing and cursing at her, she struggled free from Yu Zigong's hand, put her hands on her hips and angrily cursed, "Shut the fuck up, you motherfuckers. This mother is following her boyfriend to deal with family affairs. What does it have to do with you? Get the hell out of here, else I'll make you pay for it." The women in the surroundings immediately turned unhappy. Those who could come here to shop were from relatively good families, and some of them even came from powerful families in Shanghai. Upon hearing the fat woman's insults and arrogance, they all opened their mouths to fight back. Seeing everyone's attitude, Chen Xiaowan felt much better. She wiped the tears on her face and stopped everyone from pointing and cursing at her. Then she looked at Yu Zigong and said, "You want money, don't you? I'll give it to you. I'll transfer it to you now. Don't ever appear in front of me again after you get the money. Just pretend that we never met." "Sister, you can't give him money." A woman in her 30s hurriedly stopped Chen Xiaowan. "Big sister, and all the other sisters, thank you for your kindness," said Chen Xiaowan gratefully. "This man is too bad. He's always looking for trouble with me. He even ran to my house and smashed the door and cursed at me. I really can't stand it anymore. If money can solve this problem, I'm willing to give him money and send him away." The woman said, "Sister, don't even dream about it. This kind of mangy dog, even if you give him money now, he'll still look for trouble with you later when he has no money. I think we should call the police directly. I'm sure the police will teach him a lesson." "Who the hell are you, bitch?" Yu Zigong angrily shouted. "Mind your own business again, believe it or not, I'll slap you." The woman stepped forward, raised her head and loudly said, "Come on, I'll give you a slap. I won't believe you're a man if you don't do it today." Yu Zigong panicked. He was a smart man. How could he not know that the women who came here to shop were either from well-off families or rich and powerful people? He didn't want to complicate matters. If he provoked someone he couldn't afford to offend, he would be in big trouble. However, while he was hesitating, the fat woman next to him rushed in front of the woman and slapped her in the face. "What are you doing? You really hit me?" The surrounding women were not happy, and they all surrounded the fat woman. Even Chen Xiaowan didn't expect that she would implicate others and get beaten because of her. She forcefully squeezed to the front of the slapped woman and fiercely pushed the fat woman out while protecting her. Ouch! The fat woman was pushed and her fat buttocks fell on the ground, causing her to scream twice in pain. "Big Bro Tang, what's going on?" Hu Qingsong had just been picking out underwear. At this moment, seeing the chaotic scene in front of him, he and the shop assistant ran over. "A scumbag and a bitch bullied the scumbag's ex-girlfriend," said Tan Xiao with a wry smile. "Have you picked your underwear? If you have, then pay the bill quickly and let's leave." Hu Qingsong nodded and hurriedly paid the bill. He and Tan Xiu bypassed the crowd and prepared to go outside. At this moment, the fat woman had already crawled up from the ground. Even when Yu Zigong stopped the surrounding women, she hurriedly ran to the store's entrance and forcefully closed the door. She then shouted, "Shut the fuck up. You dare to hit this old lady? Do you know who this old lady is? You can't leave. I'll call my husband and take all of you to the police station and slap you to death." In a flash, the chaotic scene just now suddenly became dead silent. Everyone stared at the fat woman with a dumbfounded and incredulous expression. Husband? This fat woman has a husband? Tan Xiu furrowed his brows and shot a disgusted look at the fat woman. Then he said in a deep voice, "Get out of the way." The fat woman had long seen Tan Xiu. Although Tan Xiu was very handsome and tempted her, she was furious and didn't want to give face to anyone in the store. She angrily cursed, "This old lady won't give way. Do you have the fucking ability to hit me? Let me tell you something. My husband is the deputy chief of the City Public Security Bureau and has a lot of power in his hands. I'll make sure you stay in jail if you dare to make a move." A cold glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he lightly said, "Does your confidence come from your husband?" The fat woman puffed up her chest and loudly cursed, "Yeah, it comes from my husband. What are you going to do about it?" Tan Xiu was furious. He turned to look at Hu Qingsong and said, "Old Hu, this woman is courting death. How about we fulfill her wish?" Hu Qingsong angrily nodded. "Everyone, did you hear it?" Tan Xiu said aloud. "Since this woman told everyone not to leave, then no one will leave today. I'd like to see what kind of ability this woman who spews shit has." At this moment, Yu Zigong was almost scared to death by the unforeseen event in front of him. How could he know that the husband of this fat woman was the deputy chief of the Shanghai Public Security Bureau? If this matter was exposed, he would be regarded as the third party and would be killed. Chapter 567. Yu Zigong didn't expect that the fat woman was just like her appearance, with a pig's body and a pig's brain. It was true that these people were very hateful, but this fat woman was even more hateful. She had such a powerful husband, yet she still spent money to seduce him. Wasn't this just harming him? "Get out of my way." Yu Zigong dashed to the fat woman and pushed her to the side. An incredulous expression appeared on the fat woman's face. She never dreamed that it was Yu Zigong who pushed her. Shouldn't the two of them be on the same side at this time? "Yu Zigong, are you out of your mind? It's fine if they bully me, but you actually help them bully me." After the fat woman reacted, she grabbed Yu Zigong's arm and blocked the door with her fat body, not letting Yu Zigong leave no matter what. Yu Zigong angrily shouted, "Get the hell out of my way, you idiot." The fat woman flew into a rage and cursed, "Yu Zigong, you bitch. This old lady is helping you, yet you dare to turn around and curse me? I'll fight you." Slap. Yu Zigong raised his hand and slapped the fat woman's face, angrily cursing, "Wake up, bitch. What's our relationship? If you tell this to your husband, will he come to support you? Or will he come and kill us both?" "My husband will naturally come to support us, The fat woman roared. Halfway through her roaring, she suddenly realized something and swallowed the rest of the words back into her stomach. That's right. She spent money to keep a gigolo outside. If her husband knew about it, he would definitely kill her. No, she must never contact her husband. The fat woman panicked and quickly released Yu Zigong. With a nervous face, she said, Yes, you're right. I was so angry just now that I became muddle-headed. Let's go." "Wait." Tan Xiu blocked the two and sneered, "You want to go? I think you're dreaming, aren't you? Didn't you just scold me to your heart's content? Also, your cuckold husband, the deputy director of the Public Security Bureau. Can't he help you deal with me? Call him here, else you won't be able to leave this place." "Yes, we can't let them go." The woman who had just been slapped had already finished her call. She quickly ran to Tan Xiu's side and stopped Yu Zigong and the fat woman with Tan Xiu. The other customers also came to their senses and quickly blocked the exit of the shop. They all looked at the two of them with gloating expressions. "You!" The plump woman panicked even more. Yu Zigong's complexion was a bit pale and his eyes seemed to be able to spurt out flames as he stared at Tan Xiao and said in a deep voice, "Brother, we were in the wrong just now, but one must always leave some leeway so that we can meet again later. Let us leave. Let's just treat this as a misunderstanding." Tan Xiao didn't intend to make things difficult for them. He was just angry that the woman's words were too harsh. Moreover, this was a women's underwear store. He really didn't want to stay any longer. These days, there were too many people who wanted to have sex after eating their fill. He couldn't be bothered to care whether others were having an affair or not. "Make this woman apologize." Tan Xiao pointed to the fat woman and said. Yu Zigong quickly pulled the fat woman and scolded, "What are you waiting for? Apologize to her." The fat woman wished that she could find a hole to burrow into at this moment. She was still arrogant and domineering just now and didn't put these people in her eyes. But in the blink of an eye, she had to apologize to them. This kind of grievance almost drove her crazy. However, compared to her husband knowing that she kept a gigolo outside, she suddenly felt that apologizing was nothing. "I'm sorry." Tan Xiao coldly snorted and said, "Apologize to everyone, including the woman you just slapped." The woman who had just been slapped directly waved her hand and said, "I don't need her to apologize. I don't care if she's having an affair or if her husband has some ability. This matter is not over yet." Tan Xiao shot a deep look at the woman. After a moment of silence, he looked at the pale Chen Shaowan and sighed inwardly, "What about you? Will you stay? Or do you want to leave?" Chen Shaowan didn't dare to look at Tan Xiao. Even when Tan Xiao asked her, her eyes were a bit evasive. After hesitating for a moment, she whispered, "She was slapped because she helped me. I can't leave." "You're still as stubborn as ever." Tan Xiao snorted coldly and continued, "Give me your cell phone." Chen Shaowan hesitated for a moment before she shook her head and said, "I don't have one." Tan Xiao was furious inwardly and said, "It's fine if you don't want to tell me. Come to the everlasting feast hall and find me if you encounter any trouble later. They will contact me." Having said that, he turned around and walked out of the restaurant. Hu Qingsong was stunned. He looked at Chen Shaowan, who lowered her head and didn't speak, and then looked at Tan Xiao, who directly left. A strange expression appeared in his eyes. He seemed to smell something unusual between the two of them. After chasing after them, he asked in a low voice while carrying the bag, "Big Bro Tang, do you know that Chen Shaowan before?" Tan Xiao nodded lightly and didn't speak. Hu Qingsong looked at Tan Xiao's indifferent expression and had to suppress his curiosity deep inside. A few minutes later, Yu Zigong pulled the fat woman and rushed out of the Wanmao shopping plaza, while the beaten woman followed behind them. Chen Shaowan didn't know what the woman wanted to do, so she could only follow behind her. "You don't need to follow me. I'll handle this matter." The woman suddenly stopped and looked at Chen Shaowan. Chen Shaowan bit her lower lip and stubbornly shook her head. "I'm the one who implicated you. If you don't want to let this go, I'll bear it with you." "Suit yourself." The woman snorted coldly. She watched Yu Zigong and the fat woman get into an Audi in the parking lot outside. She immediately took out the car key and quickly entered a nearby Porsche. Without hesitation, Chen Shaowan opened the Porsche's front seat door and quickly sat inside. On the nearby street, Tan Xiao had been observing the outside of the Wanmao shopping plaza. Upon seeing the people who just had a conflict come out, he turned to look at Hu Qingsong in the front seat and said, "Would you like to take a taxi and go back first?" "Do you need my help?" asked Hu Qingsong after a moment of hesitation. "No need," Tan Xiao shook his head. "All right, then I'll go back first." Hu Qingsong nodded. "Call me promptly if anything happens. I'll rush there as fast as I can." "All right," replied Tan Xiao. His eyes then fell on the two cars that had already entered the road. After starting the car, he tailed the two cars all the way. Tan Xiao didn't expect that he would meet Chen Shaowan today. He didn't even recognize her at first. If it weren't for him feeling that she looked familiar and thinking about it for a long time, it would have been very difficult for him to see her again in this lifetime. She was an acquaintance. He used to be very familiar with her. She was also the first woman who tempted Tan Xiao. When he was in junior high school, she was his cousin, Sujinin's classmate and good sister. Not only did she help him a lot when he was in Star City, but she also bought a lot of things for Tan Xiao when she went back to the Su family village with Sujinin. Tan Xiao still remembered that many of his firsts were caused by this woman. The first time an outsider gave him pocket money, it was Chen Xiaowan, who was 5 or 6 years older than him. The first time someone organized a birthday party for him, it was also Chen Xiaowan. The first time he saw a woman bathing naked, it was also Chen Xiaowan. However, that accident made Chen Xiaowan hate him very much. She misunderstood that he deliberately peeked at her. Later on, he came to the immortal world by a freak combination of factors. He also had a small wish to see Chen Xiaowan again and explain it to her. If it weren't for that accident, I'm afraid I would have a big sister to love me now. Compared to Chen Xiaowan, who isn't related by blood, Sujinin is just too lacking. Tan Xiao felt a bit regretful inside. Hongkou District, at the intersection of Zhongqiang Road. 2 SUVs violently rushed out and drove side by side with Yu Zigang's Audi. One of the SUVs directly hit the front of the Audi. As the Audi suddenly shifted, it was knocked over by the SUV behind it. After a simple stop, the 2 slightly damaged SUVs quickly left. The Porsche behind them stopped at the roadside. The woman in the driver's seat turned to look at the dumbfounded Chen Xiaowan, who was caught unprepared by the unforeseen event in front. She lightly smiled and said, "You're Miss Chen, right? You're very good. At the very least, you're a responsible woman. Now that the resentment in my heart has been vented, you can go." Chen Xiaowan was still in a daze. The woman raised her brows and said, "I mean, you can get off now." Chen Xiaowan got off the car in a daze. As the Porsche disappeared at the end of the road in the distance, she seemed to wake up from a dream. Heavens! The 2 SUVs that just hit and overturned Yu Zigang's Audi were called by that woman? Who the hell was she? She turned out to be murder? Standing on the roadside, Chen Xiaowan took out her mobile with mixed feelings. She wanted to call an ambulance, but the thought of saving the man she hated made her unable to press the dial button. Creak! Tan Xiao parked the car next to Chen Xiaowan and indifferently looked at the overturned Audi on the roadside. After getting off the car, he directly grabbed Chen Xiaowan's wrist, opened the front seat, and pushed her inside. What are you doing?" shouted Chen Xiaowan angrily when she saw Tan Xiao sitting in the driver's seat. She watched him start the car and drive forward. A forced smile appeared on Tan Xiao's face as he said, "It's been a few years, Sis Xiaowan. Can't you listen to my explanation about the matter at that time?" Chen Xiaowan fell into silence. She was indeed very angry with Tan Xiao back then, but the real reason why she avoided Tan Xiao was not entirely because of that matter, but because of Sujinin's attitude. Had it not been for the big quarrel she had with Sujinin on Tan Xiao's birthday, she would probably still have regarded Tan Xiao as her younger brother. What a pity! It was a pity that Tan Xiao was Sujinin's younger brother, not hers. Even though she liked the sensible, well-behaved, kind-hearted and gentle Tan Xiao. Chapter 568. As the deputy director of the Municipal Public Security Bureau, Feng Kong, who held real power, had never imagined that one day he would be cuckolded by his wife, who was as fat as a pig. What's more, he didn't expect that this matter would be exposed in public. So much so that the 6 or 7 police officers he brought with him looked at him with strange eyes. "Pa!" Feng Kong was furious and slapped the woman's face and angrily shouted, "Shut the hell up! Talk nonsense again and I'll arrest you for slandering others." The woman who was slapped covered her cheek and shouted, "Heavens! The police hit someone. His wife keeps a gigolo and made him wear a green hat, and then he got into a car accident here. I told him the truth, yet he got angry out of shame and slapped me. Is there still any law in this country? Everyone, please be the judge. How can the police hit someone?" Feng Kong was furious and slapped her, but he immediately regretted it. No matter what, he was the deputy chief of the City Public Security Bureau and shouldn't have hit someone in public. Sure enough, the crowd in the surroundings immediately stirred up. Everyone looked dissatisfied, and many of them even stood up to criticize Feng Kang's profiteering methods. Among them, some people were arranged by those with ulterior motives to fan the flames in the crowd, arousing the anger of the surrounding people. Sitting in the car, Tan Xiao watched the unforeseen event in front of him. He turned his head to look at Chen Shaowan and praised, "That woman is really ruthless. She arranged all kinds of links to each other. I'm afraid that it's not only Yu Zigong and that fat woman who will be out of luck this time, but even the deputy chief of the Public Security Bureau will be implicated." "Could it be that the policeman who hit her is that fat woman's husband?" asked Chen Shaowan in a low voice. "That should be the case," said Tan Xiao with a light smile. "Else, why would the people from the Public Security Bureau come to the scene instead of the traffic police? Also, the woman who announced that his wife was having an affair was obviously arranged by someone else. But that policeman actually hit her with a furious expression on his face. This situation can only mean that he's the unlucky cuckold man." Chen Shaowan nodded and suddenly turned to look at Tan Xiao with a bit of embarrassment. She then said in a low voice, "Can you please not say the word cuckold again? I also seem to have one on my head." Cough, cough. Chen Xiaowan's words made Tan Xiao choke. He was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he looked at her. Then he forced a smile and said, "It's all in the past, Sis Shaowan. Don't take it to heart. Just treat it as if you've been bitten by a pet dog you like very much. Just kick it away." "Pet dog?" Chen Shaowan was stunned when she heard this, and then a smile appeared on her beautiful face. Next to the ambulance, Feng Kong was facing the accusations from countless onlookers. He wanted to figure out the truth thoroughly. He grabbed the woman and said in a deep voice, "I apologize for my behavior just now, but you must also take responsibility for your words. How can you prove that the two of them have a shady relationship?" The woman said angrily, "How? Do I still need to prove it?" Dozens of people had seen what they did at the Corinne Gilson lingerie store in the Wan Trade Shopping Center. "If you don't believe me, you can go to Corinne Gilson and investigate." Feng Kong let go of the woman, turned his head and shouted, "Li Hu, go to the Wan Trade Shopping Center and investigate what she said. I'll follow you to the hospital and wait for your news there." "Affirmative," the young policeman replied and quickly left with the two. As the ambulance left, the accident investigation team arrived and towed the overturned off-road vehicle away. Only then did the surrounding onlookers slowly disperse. Tan Xiao drove the car and followed the ambulance to the Shanghai hospital. When he parked in the hospital's parking lot, his expression suddenly moved and said, "Sis Shaowan, do you want to solve this big problem of Yu Zigong once and for all?" Chen Shaowan was confused. "Transfer 100,000 yuan to Yu Zigong's account now," said Tan Xiao with a light smile. So many people heard his threat in Corinne Gilson. This can also be regarded as extortion and blackmail. I have a way to make him spend 8 to 10 years in prison because of this 100,000 yuan. Chen Shaowan looked at Tan Xiao with a dumbfounded expression. After a long while, she bitterly shook her head and said, "Forget it. He has already received the punishment he deserves. It's too hard on him." Tan Xiao sighed inwardly. He somewhat regretted his proposal just now. Chen Shaowan was sometimes very tough on the surface, but she had a very kind heart and soft-heartedness was her biggest characteristic. In this aspect, she was actually comparable to his mother, Su Lingyun. Since you don't have the heart to do it, then forget it. Let's wait here. I'm sure the news will come out soon. Alright. More than an hour later, Tan Xiao used his spiritual sense to monitor the situation and found that the policeman sent by Feng Kong to the Wan Trade Shopping Center had returned. After reporting the investigation at the operating room's door, Feng Kong flew into a rage and kicked open the operating room's door. He rushed in and beat Yu Zigong, who was receiving treatment. Even 4 or 5 doctors couldn't stop him. Finally, he picked up a scalpel and fiercely cut Feng Kang's lower body. Castrated? Tan Xiao was dumbfounded and a strange emotion rippled inside him. Chen Shaowan was a bit dazed, so she didn't see the change in Tan Xiao's expression. It didn't take long for Tan Xiao to call her to get off the car and walk toward the building not far away. Then, the voices of many people passed into their ears. It's really strange. A policeman actually beat a wounded patient who is really receiving surgery. According to the news, the police officer castrated the other party for some reason. He became a living eunuch? Yeah, he really became a living eunuch. I heard the scene was very tragic. Chen Xiaowan's footsteps halted and she turned to look at Tan Xiu. Although Tan Xiu could clearly observe it with his spiritual sense, he couldn't expose the problem of his spiritual sense. Therefore, he deliberately showed a surprised expression and whispered, "It can't be true, right?" Chen Xiaowan was silent for a while before she suddenly pulled Tan Xiu's arm. A satisfied smile appeared on her beautiful face as she said, "I don't want to hear or watch the rest of the story. Let's go." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and said, "Let's go have a meal." The duo no longer stayed and wasted time. After leaving the hospital, they rushed to the everlasting feast hall. On the way, Tan Xiu made a phone call and asked someone to pay attention to the situation in the hospital. At the everlasting feast hall, Qi Nan had been living a comfortable life recently. She learned from Tan Xiu in advance that she could obtain a lot of precious medicinal herbs and could exchange them for a lot of cultivation resources at the HQ in Jingmen Island. Therefore, it only took her half a month to spend all her money to buy precious medicinal herbs, thus becoming the first batch of members to exchange for a lot of medicinal pills. As a result, her cultivation speed had advanced by leaps and bounds, and she was just a step away from breaking through to the foundation establishment stage. Furthermore, as a reward, the Everlasting Feast Hall's HQ in Jingmen Island rewarded her with some medicinal pills, which made her more satisfied. At present, the only regret she had was that she had no money and was very poor. Where can I get some money? Qi Nan thought for a while and then decided to take the time to play underground car racing. It was her strong point, and it wouldn't be a problem for her to make money to exchange for cultivation resources. Just as she lazily leaned on the window on the second floor, she suddenly saw the figure of her boss, Tan Xiu, appear at the restaurant's entrance, accompanied by a beautiful woman. Boss's luck with women is really heaven-defying. The thought flashed in Qi Nan's mind as she strode outside the office. In just a minute or two, she appeared in front of Tan Xiu. "Hello, boss." "Qi Nan, apply for a VIP card for my sister," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. Qi Nan stared blankly for a moment before she respectfully said with a smile, "Boss, the identity of this VIP is Sis Xiaowan. Follow Qi Nan to apply for a VIP card." Tan Xiu said with a smile, "I'll order the dishes downstairs and wait for you to come back." "You're the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss, Tan Xiu?" Chen Xiaowan was surprised. "That's right," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Chen Xiaowan was somewhat shocked inwardly. As a senior executive of a large foreign company, she had once visited the Everlasting Feast Hall for a meal. She naturally knew that the Everlasting Feast Hall was the most high-end restaurant in Shanghai. Even an ordinary meal here would probably cost thousands of yuan. Despite having a good annual income, she didn't dare to eat here often. She only came here a few times with the company's leaders. She couldn't figure out how Tan Xiu became the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss. It was because the Everlasting Feast Hall had been operating in Shanghai for many years, and Tan Xiu should only be a junior high student at that time, right? A few minutes later, after Chen Xiaowan followed Qi Nan to apply for a VIP card, they came to a good table on the first floor. She then sat opposite to Tan Xiu and asked about the confusion in her heart. Tan Xiu didn't want to tell her the reason, so he casually made up a reason and smoothly brushed it off. During the meal, the two talked a lot, such as how they had been living in the past few years. Of course, it was mainly Chen Xiaowan who spoke, while Tan Xiu was a good listener. However, the Japanese company where Chen Xiaowan worked slightly surprised Tan Xiu, because he had heard of it. "Alright, let's not talk about me first. Let's talk about you. Didn't you say that you started your business before the college entrance test? What kind of business is it?" asked Chen Xiaowan with a smile. "Sister Xiaowan, you should have heard of the magnificent Tang Corporation, right?" asked Tan Xiu. "Of course I have." Chen Xiaowan nodded and smilingly said, "The magnificent Tang Corporation is a company with limitless potential in the country. The cosmetics produced by this company are simply women's favorite. Unfortunately, the sales volume is limited. I only bought it once and spent more than 2 months' salary." Suddenly, her smile froze on her face, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Chapter 569. Tan Xiu smiled and said, If you like the skincare lotion, Sis Xiaowan, I'll send some to you later. Chen Xiaowan nearly jumped up from her chair and looked at Tan Xiu with a surprised expression. She suddenly felt as though she was dreaming. She once thought that she would never meet Tan Xiu again in this life. Never did she expect that there seemed to be a thread in the dark that pulled the two of them to meet again. It was once. Tan Xiu's life was very bitter. She liked that sensible and well-behaved boy, so she treated him as a younger brother. But she never expected that he would make such a name for himself in just 4 or 5 years. It was the magnificent Tang Corporation. It was a dark horse in the business world with an unstoppable momentum. Tan Xiu, you're not lying to me, are you? Asked Chen Xiaowan with a trembling voice. Do you think I'm the kind of person who likes to brag, Sis Xiaowan? Tan Xiu shrugged his shoulders and chuckled. Chen Xiaowan hesitated for a moment before shaking her head. You don't look like it. But it's too shocking. How did you do it? Just do it seriously, said Tan Xiu with a smile. Chen Xiaowan snappily rolled her eyes at him and resentfully said, I originally thought that after I graduated from college, I not only came to Shanghai, but I also found a job in a foreign company of a large international group. I also worked hard to climb up to the management level of the company, earning a good income and living a very comfortable life. I'm already considered very successful. But compared to you, I'm just worlds apart. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, Don't compare. It's fine as long as you think you're successful. You're just like those children born with a golden spoon in their mouths. They may have hundreds of millions of wealth the moment they landed on this earth. Chen Xiaowan felt relieved and said with a smile, What you said makes sense. But I'm really shocked by your achievements. I'll treat you today. You must treat me to a good meal some other day. Do you think you can treat me today, Sis Xiaowan? Tan Xiu forced a wry smile. Chen Xiaowan stared blankly for a moment before recalling that the owner of the everlasting feast hall was Tan Xiu. Even if she rushed to pay the bill, the cashier wouldn't dare to accept it. All right, it's your treat today. I'll treat you another day. Chen Xiaowan gave Tan Xiu a defeated look. She didn't have any other thoughts because of Tan Xiu's identity. In her eyes, although Tan Xiu had grown up, he was still the boy who used to be very sensible and obedient and called her sister. Tan Xiu asked curiously, Sister Xiaowan, you said you work for a Japanese company. What's the name of the company? What kind of business do you do? Brisk Trading Group, a retail company, said Chen Xiaowan with a smile. Tan Xiu noted down the name of the company and then accompanied Chen Xiaowan to have a meal. He then drove her back to her residence, Shanghai's Jingning District, Bishan Lake District. Chen Xiaowan originally wanted to invite Tan Xiu upstairs, but Tan Xiu found an excuse to refuse. After driving away from Bishan Lake District, he received a call from a member of the Everlasting Feast Hall, informing him about what happened in Shanghai Hospital and Feng Kang's fate. You mean Feng Kang has been suspended by the Public Security Bureau for investigation? Tan Xiu asked while driving while wearing a Bluetooth headset. That's right. What he did was too bad and seriously affected the reputation of the public security system. Therefore, his superiors ordered him to be suspended, and an investigation team has been sent to investigate him. A low and deep voice came from the phone. I see. Tan Xiu hung up the phone with a bitter smile on his face. Speaking of which, Feng Kang could be considered as having 8 lifetimes of bad luck. He originally held a steady position in the Municipal Public Security Bureau and was considered as a person with real power. Never did he expect that his fat and ugly wife would actually cheat on him and make him a cuckold. It was fine if he was made a cuckold, but he lost his mind out of anger and even castrated Yu Zigong in the hospital's operating room. Tan Xiu thought for a while and then dialed his family's patriarch's number. Haha, how come you suddenly remembered to call me Xiu? I just mentioned you to your third grandpa. Tang Guisheng's hearty laughter came from the phone. Grandpa, our Tang family has safely passed through the crisis, and the Yao family, the biggest threat to us, has fallen. Are you in a good mood? Tan Xiu said with a smile. Indeed. Tang Guisheng laughed. Since you're in a good mood, can you do me a favor? I want to protect someone, said Tan Xiu. Tang Guisheng was surprised. Protect someone? What's his identity? Tang Guosheng was surprised. Tan Xiu told him about Feng Kang's matter and finally said, "Grandpa, I want to work in Shanghai. If I have someone in the Public Security Bureau, it will be very convenient for me to handle a lot of things in the future. Feng Kang is facing a great disaster now. If I help him at this time, I'll definitely be able to smoothly make him work for me." Tang Guosheng pondered for a moment and said, "No problem. I'll immediately use my connections. All his troubles will be solved by tomorrow afternoon at the latest." "No hurry," said Tan Xiu. "It's best to wait for 2 days." Tang Guosheng stared blankly and instantly understood Tan Xiu's meaning. Feng Kang was now in a crisis. If he helped him solve it immediately, he was afraid that he wouldn't be grateful. But if he helped him when he was at the end of his rope and suffering from mental torture, he would definitely be grateful and would be better used by his grandson in the future. "I understand. Then let him enjoy it for 2 days." Kangxiao Villa Complex in Shanghai. Anai Jia was in a good mood today. Although she was slapped by a crazy woman when she was shopping in the mall, everything she did was to vent the anger in her heart. "Daughter, what are you giggling about?" Anai Pengang sat on the sofa in the living room with his legs crossed, reading a financial magazine in his hand. He suddenly noticed that his daughter, who was sitting in front of him, was giggling like a fool, so he immediately asked with a smile, "It's nothing. I just cleaned up a mad dog today, so I'm in a good mood." Anai Jia held back her laughter. "Dad, you should have heard of the Deputy Chief of the Public Security Bureau, Feng Kang, right?" Anai Pengang stared blankly for a moment before he nodded and said, "I know him. He's a deputy chief with a promising future. I heard that he's old ways old subordinate. Maybe he can be promoted to a permanent position next year." "He'll never be able to be promoted to a permanent position." Anai Jia giggled. "I used a trick today to pull him down from his high horse. I just got the news that he's been suspended for investigation." Anai Pengang suddenly straightened up and asked in surprise, "What happened?" Anai Jia recounted what happened today and finally said, "He can only blame that shameless wife of his. She's arrogant and domineering. Look at my face, the palm print still hasn't completely disappeared." Anai Pengang's brows deeply furrowed as he nodded and said, "Since you've cleaned them up, then let this matter be settled. But it's a pity that some of Old Wei's arrangements will be affected." "Dad, I don't care about Uncle Wei's affairs," said Anai Jia proudly. "You once taught me that I won't offend people if they don't offend me, but I'll pay them back tenfold if they offend me. Feng Kang's wife hit me, so I'll pay her back. But that woman called Chen Xiaowan is pretty good. I like her very much. Since you like her, then poach her to help you manage your business." Anai Pengang laughed. "I hope she has the ability." "All right." Anai Jia giggled. At Blue Star Villa Complex. After Tan Xiu came back, he was pleasantly surprised to see Dai Xinyue. She originally planned to come to Shanghai after the National Day holiday. But something happened at home, so it was delayed for a month. "Have you solved the problem at home?" asked Tan Xiu while looking at Dai Xinyue, who was obediently staying beside Kang Xia. "Yeah, it's all done," said Dai Xinyue with a smile. "You can find a room on the first floor and live here from now on," said Tan Xiu. "Also, I may be busy a lot, so you can read and study by yourself when I'm not here. I'll teach you some things when I have time. If your medical skills progress fast during the New Year's Day, I'll take you to a hospital for your internship." Dai Xinyue's eyes lit up and respectfully said, "I'll listen to your arrangement, master." Tan Xiu turned to look at Kang Xia and asked, "Have you had dinner? What's your plan for tonight?" "Yeah, I've had dinner," said Kang Xia. "Xinyue and I are going to go shopping. She has been to Shanghai before, but she didn't have a chance to stroll around." "All right, you can go now," said Tan Xiu. "I'm going out for a while, and I'm afraid I'll be back very late." "Where are you going?" asked Kang Xia. "There's an old acquaintance in Hong Kong who sent me a batch of things," said Tan Xiu. "I need to meet him and talk about something." Upon hearing it, Kang Xia nodded and said, "Then go and busy yourself. We'll go out later." Tan Xiu returned to the study room on the second floor. He subconsciously wanted to release the fierce beast he had subdued to feed it. But when he came to the corner and saw that the array had been removed, he suddenly remembered that he had thrown the fierce beast to Resting Cemetery Island a few days ago. "I'll be busy." After taking a shower, Tan Xiu returned to the study room and began to draw the plans of Clam Island and Resting Cemetery Island. In particular, he needed to design the plan of Clam Island's herb planting area. After all, the medicinal properties of the herbs were different, so he must think clearly in advance about which area to plant which herbs. Before he could finish drawing half of the Clam Island's plan, Tan Xiu received a call and learned that the medicinal herbs sent by Li Juren had left the highway and were now heading toward the Everlasting Feast Hall. He was full of expectations for the medicinal herbs sent by Li Juren. After returning to the Everlasting Feast Hall, Tan Xiu had just chatted with Qi Nan for a while when a container truck arrived at the Everlasting Feast Hall, escorted by 4 off-road vehicles. Under the guidance of the Everlasting Feast Hall staff, the 5 vehicles drove into the Everlasting Feast Hall's backyard. "Hello, Mr. Tang. Our boss asked me to give you the medicinal herbs. All of them are now in the truck. This is a list of all the medicinal herbs. Please have a look." A refined middle-aged man recognized Tan Xiu at first glance. Tan Xiu took the list. After reading it, a satisfied smile appeared on his handsome face as he said, "Leave the container truck here. Find a hotel to stay in and come here early tomorrow morning to drive the truck away." Chapter 570. As the 4 SUVs left, Tan Xiu asked Qi Nan to drive away all the staff in the backyard and ordered that no one was allowed to come in. Only then did he personally open the door of the container truck. Inside the container truck, there were a total of 88 black suitcases, each of which was filled with medicinal herbs. According to the 2 prescriptions Tan Xiu had given before, there were a total of 88 kinds of precious medicinal herbs. Tan Xiu opened the suitcases one by one, checking the medicinal properties and age of the medicinal herbs before storing them into his interspatial ring one by one. After storing all the suitcases into his interspatial ring, a bit of regret appeared on his face. Li Juren had sent his men to collect all the precious medicinal herbs needed to refine the marrow cleansing pill and could definitely refine hundreds of marrow cleansing pills. Although he had almost collected all the precious medicinal herbs needed to refine the essence longevity pill, he only found the 500-year-old Polygonum multiflorum among the 3 most important medicinal herbs. The Millennium Snow Lotus and the Flying Guillotine were nowhere to be found. According to the proportion of medicinal herbs needed to refine the essence longevity pill, these medicinal herbs sent by Li Juren can at least refine hundreds of essence longevity pills. Unfortunately, without the Millennium Snow Lotus and the Flying Guillotine, it will be very difficult to refine the essence longevity pill. Tan Xiu suppressed the regret at the bottom of his heart. He knew that one must not be greedy. It was already a very big harvest to be able to get the medicinal herbs needed to refine the marrow cleansing pill and the essence longevity pill. The Millennium Snow Lotus and the Flying Guillotine were medicinal herbs that could only be found by chance but not sought. Tan Xiu had obtained the Millennium Snow Lotus before, but it had been used by Ji Qimei to refine the pill. Haste makes waste. Tan Xiu understood this truth. After closing the container truck's door, he turned to look at Qi Nan at the side and found that she was looking at him with a somewhat different expression. If you can reach a satisfactory level, you will also have your own interspatial ring in the future. Alright, I still have other things to do, so I'll go back first. After saying that, Tan Xiu drove the car away from the Everlasting Feast Hall. Qi Nan quietly watched the car leave, her heart filled with anticipation. She wanted to have a lot of cultivation resources, which was more like having her own interspatial ring. She was very clear about one thing. If she had an interspatial ring, it would be much more convenient no matter where she went and what she did in the future. The first task is to get money. Qi Nan clenched her fists, her eyes filled with determination. It was midnight. When Tan Xiu returned to the Blue Star Villa complex, he found that Kong Xia hadn't rested yet. She was quietly sitting on the bed, looking at the financial statements. The sales of the newly launched health products had achieved very good results. The return of the funds also made the magnificent Tang Corp's financial situation more prosperous. However, Kong Xia knew that Tan Xiu had a big plan, especially the internal purchase of real estate in Star City's new city, as well as the establishment of the headquarters building, factory construction, equipment configuration, and so on before moving to Shanghai. There were a lot of things that needed to be spent. Still awake? Tan Xiao asked with a smile after taking off his coat and hanging it up. Kong Xia closed the financial statement and chuckled, "I'll be waiting for you to come back. I'm going back to Star City tomorrow since there are still a lot of things waiting for me to deal with in the company." "Have you booked the plane tickets?" asked Tan Xiao. "I'll take you to the airport tomorrow." "I've booked it." Although Kong Xia was reluctant in her heart, she still said in a soft voice. That night, both of them were crazy as they hugged each other and slept. The next morning, Tan Xiao sent Kong Xia to Shanghai Airport. After she left, on the way back to Blue Star Villa Complex, Tan Xiao received a call from Yang Lu. Originally, he took Yang Lu to Jingmen Island because he needed him to do something. But because it was solved easily and the Tang family had put in a lot of effort, Yang Lu became idle instead. After he went to the imperial capital, Yang Lu stayed in Jingmen Island for a while before returning to Shanghai with Han Qingwu. After returning home, just as Tan Xiao entered the hall, he saw Yang Lu and Dai Xinyue staring at each other. He let out a faint smile and said, "You two should already know each other, right?" "No, I don't," Dai Xinyue and Yang Lu replied in unison. Immediately after, they fiercely glared at each other and turned their faces to the side at the same time. Tan Xiao was startled and didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, "What's wrong? Did you two have a misunderstanding?" Dai Xinyue got up and said, "Master, this guy is a rogue." Yang Lu also hurriedly got up and angrily said, "Don't listen to this girl's nonsense, Tan Xiao. It's a misunderstanding. Who knows she's in the toilet? I came here because I was in a hurry, so I—" Tan Xiao instantly understood and said with a smile, "All right. Since it's a misunderstanding, let's just talk about it. Yang Lu, you called me and said you have a very important matter to discuss with me. What's the specific matter?" Yang Lu pointed to Dai Xinyue and said, "Brother Tan Xiao, I don't trust this girl. Tell her to leave." Tan Xiao stared blankly. Dai Xinyue snappily glared at Yang Lu and disdainfully said, "Who wants to hear it?" "Master, I'll go out with Auntie Zhang to buy groceries. Do you have anything you need to buy? I'll bring it back for you." Tan Xiao shook his head. As Dai Xinyue and the nanny Zhang Xinlan left, Yang Lu came to Tan Xiao's side and whispered, "My eldest senior brother has returned to China and is now in Shanghai." "Yao Qinglong?" asked Tan Xiao with furrowed brows. "Yes, it's him." Yang Lu nodded. "I just got a message from him, saying that he has come to Shanghai and wants to meet me. The Yao family in the imperial capital is almost finished. Those who were lucky enough to escape the calamity have left the imperial capital in a hurry and are hiding through various means," said Tan Xiao. "Yao Qinglong has returned to China at this time, but he didn't appear in the imperial capital and instead came to Shanghai. What does he want to do?" Yang Lu shook his head and said, "I'm also curious, so I didn't refuse him after he contacted me. Instead, I came to you to discuss it with you. I have a feeling that it's not a good thing for him to suddenly look for me." Tan Xiao thought for a moment and seriously said, "Go see him and figure out his purpose for looking for you. I remember you once said that Yao Qinglong is very ambitious and has been operating abroad all year round. Nobody knows how much power he has now. I may not be afraid of him, but I'm also afraid of trouble. He's a dangerous factor, so I must do everything I can to get rid of him." Yang Lu hesitated for a moment and whispered, If he really wants to be the enemy of your Tang family, can you promise me one thing?" "Say it," replied Tan Xiao calmly. "No matter what, he's still my eldest senior brother," said Yang Lu. "Can you spare his life at the last moment?" asked Yang Lu calmly. "It's not impossible to spare his life, but I have many means at my disposal," said Tan Xiao. "Do you think it's better to spare his life and let him become a living dead? Or to let him die early and reincarnate early?" Yang Lu was silent for a moment. Finally, he nodded and said, "Just pretend I didn't say anything. I'll help you figure out his purpose for returning to China, but you can solve the problem between you two. I'm going abroad tomorrow, and I'm afraid it'll be some time before I come back." Alright. Tan Xiu nodded. He was well aware of Yang Li's character. Being sandwiched between him and his eldest senior brother would be very difficult for him. The reason why he had to go abroad was probably to avoid the suspicion. At noon, Yang Li met his eldest senior brother, Yao Qinglong, in a coffee shop. To his surprise, not only was Yao Qinglong not pained because of the Yao family's problem, but he looked like a spring breeze and smiled at him. "What are you looking for me for?" Yang Li sat on the opposite sofa, still with that cynical look on his face. "What do you want to drink?" asked Yao Qinglong with a smile. "I can see that whatever you drink doesn't taste right." Yang Lu waved his hand. "Spit it out if you have something to say. Don't waste my time." Yao Qinglong seemed to have long been accustomed to Yang Li's attitude. He lightly smiled and said, "Junior brother, though master has passed away, we're, after all, martial brothers. Even if I'm not looking for you to reminisce about the old days, shouldn't I?" Yang Lu contemptuously said, "You're too cunning, and your utilitarian heart is too heavy. I'm afraid that I can't avoid you. Are you going to say it or not? If you don't want to say it, then I'm leaving." "Forget it. I've experienced your bad temper many times," said Yao Qinglong. "Alright, then I'll talk to you about something serious. I need you to help me with a deal. I'll give you a 100 million commission after it's done." 100 million? That's a big deal. Yang Li looked surprised and his eyes kept lingering on Yao Qinglong. "It's indeed a big deal," said Yao Qinglong. "Some people have paid a high price to buy the formulas of several products of the Magnificent Tang Corporation, and there have been many people who have set their eyes on the Magnificent Tang Corporation, but all of them have failed. I accepted this deal, so I came to Shanghai directly to find you after returning to the country. Also, second brother and third brother have agreed and are now on the way to Shanghai." The Magnificent Tang Corporation? Yang Lu secretly sighed inwardly. He had some contempt and sympathy for Yao Qinglong. He despised the fact that the Yao family had been ruined and the members of the Yao family were now in a precarious situation, yet Yao Qinglong turned a deaf ear to them and didn't care about their kinship. What he sympathized with was that his target was the Magnificent Tang Corporation. Others might not know the ins and outs of the Magnificent Tang Corporation, but he was perfectly clear about it. With Tan Xiu's fearsome means and those inhuman fellows of the Everlasting Feast Hall, even if Yao Qinglong was a disciple of the thief sect, he wouldn't be able to achieve what he wanted. Yang Lu was silent for a long while before he slowly said, "I have a question. You're a member of the Yao family in the imperial capital, right? According to the news I heard recently, the Yao family is very miserable now. They have fallen from the clouds and many of them are now in danger. As a member of the Yao family, you don't seem to care about it, do you?" Yao Qinglong squinted his eyes and a murderous intent flashed in them. He then indifferently said, "This enmity must be avenged. But do you think I have any chance of winning if I act now? I understand what you mean. You think I'm cold-hearted, don't you? It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge 10 years later. If you rush to take revenge before you have enough foundation, it's like hitting a stone with an egg. Not only will you not be able to take revenge, but you'll also throw yourself into it." Today's update is completed. Seeking monthly and recommendation votes for support. Chapter 571. Yang Lu agreed with Yao Qinglong's words, but he was well aware of one thing. Yao Qinglong wanting to take revenge on Tan Xiu was absolutely courting his own death. However, in the past, he still had some feelings for Yao Qinglong, but ever since his master died, Yao Qinglong and the others treated him unscrupulously, even wanting to take his life. In the end, he managed to escape. From then on, there was no longer any feelings left for him. "Yao Qinglong, surely you haven't forgotten what I told you before, right? We're no longer martial brothers. You're free to do whatever you want, and it has nothing to do with me anymore. If there's nothing else, I won't accompany you anymore." Having said that, he got up from the sofa and was about to leave. Yao Qinglong let out a faint smile and said, "Junior brother, it seems that the wealth master gave you before his death is much more than I imagined. Even 100 million can't move you now?" Yang Li's expression abruptly changed as he angrily said, "The things left by master were obtained by me with my own ability. You're not as good as him, so don't think about those things anymore. Yao Qinglong put on an indifferent expression and lightly said, that old geezer must have calculated that we can't get it, so he left behind that kind of instruction, didn't he? Since he's dead, then his things should be taken out and divided equally. Of course, if you help me get the formula of the magnificent Tang Corporation's products, I'll never mention the things left by Master ever again. I'll also compensate second brother and third brother so that they can give up thinking about those things. How about it? Dream on. Yang Lu angrily yelled. Yang Lu, am afraid of everything, but I'm not afraid of being threatened. Considering that we're martial brothers, I can let bygones be bygones for plotting against me. But if you dare to oppose me again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Yao Qinglong couldn't help laughing and said, what are you talking about, junior brother? How could your senior brother plot against you? I'm sincerely inviting you to help me. Even if you really don't want to, I won't force you. That's right, if you have something to do, you can go first. If second and third come, we'll go straight to the Blue Star Villa complex to have a drink with you. Yang Le clenched his fists and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Since Yao Qinglong knew where he lived, it meant that they had investigated him. He was threatening him. If he didn't help them, they would most likely attack him. Yao Qinglong smiled and said, junior brother, it seems that you don't welcome us to your place as guests? If you don't welcome me, I think you should sit down and continue talking with me. Maybe you'll change your mind later. I won't change my mind, said Yang Le coldly. Of course, I also welcome you to my place as guests. I just hope you don't die. Finished. When Yao Qinglong's smile froze, he turned around and walked out of the cafe. Bang! Yao Qinglong slammed his palm on the table and watched Yang Li's disappearing figure. His heart was filled with murderous intent. Since you don't know the difference between life and death, then I'll let you suffer a bit. I hope that in the face of death, you can still persist. Japan, the top of Mount Fuji. Kawako was hugging her katana and sitting cross-legged under a cherry tree. She was wearing a black exercise suit and allowed the drizzle to wet the ends of her hair. Whoosh! A ghostly figure silently appeared in front of her and knelt on one knee. The woman with a lock of white hair on her forehead respectfully said, young master, I've obtained the item and it's on its way here. It should arrive tomorrow morning at the latest. Kawako abruptly opened her eyes with a pleasantly surprised look flashing in them. Then, she said with satisfaction, they did a good job. That thing isn't of much use to me, but for... All right, tell them not to leave any traces. Understood. The woman in ninja attire replied. Her body twisted and disappeared again. A smile finally appeared on Kawako's face as she said, Hanako, help me book a plane ticket to Magic City in China. Also, inform my father that I'm going to China to continue discussing the cooperation with the magnificent Tang Corporation. Understood. A voice came from behind the tree, but it immediately returned to normal. Shanghai, Blue Star Villa Complex. After Yang Le came back, he noticed that someone had been following him, so he didn't directly go to Tan Xiu's place. After returning to Villa number 11, he walked to the bedroom window and looked outside before dialing Tan Xiu's number. You're back? Tan Xiu's voice came out of the phone. Tan Xiu, I need your help, said Yang Le. Speak. What is it? Asked Tan Xiu. What is it? Tang Xiu asked. Yao Qinglong, Du Yanghe, and Qiu Jian are probably going to attack me tonight. If they make a move, I hope you can help me kill them. Tan Xiu raised his brows and asked, why do they want to kill you? Also, how did they know that you're staying here? Yao Qinglong should have sent someone to investigate my whereabouts, said Yang Le. My whereabouts in Shanghai are very hidden, but I've been staying here for a long time, so they should be able to find me with their ability. Further, I also figured out Yao Qinglong's purpose in looking for me. They want me to help them steal the formulas of several products of the magnificent Tang Corporation. I refused. Got it. After saying that, Tan Xiu directly hung up the phone. At first, he wasn't in a hurry to deal with Yao Qinglong. Although Yao Qinglong's identity was a disciple of the thief sect, he didn't put him in his eyes. However, he actually dared to steal the formulas of several products of the magnificent Tang Corporation, which was absolutely unforgivable. Those formulas were the capital he relied on to make money. If Yao Qinglong were to steal them, his loss would be too great. There's a road to heaven, yet you refuse to take it. There's no gate to hell, yet you still want to throw yourself into it. Tan Xiu let out a sneer and began to contact Qi Nan. Although he was very strong, he was afraid that some of them would slip through the net if the other party sent too many people. Therefore, he needed the experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall to lay out an inescapable net. Even if the other party sent a large number of experts, they would not be able to return. At the previous coffee shop, Yao Qinglong had never left. He sat alone on the sofa and quietly sipped his coffee while thinking about something in silence. The reason why he returned to China and even rushed to Shanghai was not because he didn't care about the Yao family's current situation, but because he didn't want to expose himself. The Yao family was very important. But that was the former Yao family, the Yao family that could bring him benefits. The current Yao family was like stray dogs, and the entire family's foundation was eroded by others little by little. He had learned from the intelligence that perhaps it wouldn't be long before the Yao family would no longer exist in the imperial capital. However, all of this was not important to him. What was important was the formulas of the magnificent Tang Corporation's products. He came back this time with an arduous task. Senior brother. Senior brother. Two voices came from a distance as Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian came before Yao Qinglong with smiles on their faces. Although the three of them each had their own ulterior motives, they seemed to get along well with each other on the surface. Yao Qinglong got up and hugged them. He pointed to the sofa in front of him and asked them to sit down. Then, he said with a smile, "You two came really fast." "Senior brother, we naturally rushed here since you summoned us," said Du Yanghe with a smile. "What about that brat Yang Lu? Didn't you say that you would see him in advance?" "That brat doesn't want to be with us, so he directly left." Yao Qinglong sneered. "I think he refuses a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit." Du Yanghe angrily said, "Senior brother, as long as you tell me, I'll kill him today. All the wealth master left for us has been taken by that brat. We didn't kill him last time, so I haven't vented my anger yet. Let's go find him. If he doesn't take out the wealth left by master, we'll kill him," said Qiu Jian coldly. "I don't believe that he would rather keep the money and disregard his own life." "Don't worry," said Yao Qinglong with a smile. "It's daytime now, so it's not suitable for us to act. I've sent some people to investigate his whereabouts and have also sent some people to track him. I believe that he won't be able to get rid of my informants even if he wants to escape now. First, let me tell you the main purpose of coming here. I need to get the formulas of several products developed by the magnificent Tang Corporation. If you can help me get them, I'll give each of you 100 million yuan." Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian looked at each other, and both of them revealed shocked expressions. They were shocked not because they wanted to steal the formulas of the magnificent Tang Corporation's products, but because of the reward promised by Yao Qinglong. 100 million yuan? Even if both of them were disciples of the thief sect and had good skills, as well as their own businesses, their total wealth was probably less than 100 million yuan. "Senior brother, that's a big deal," Du Yanghe exclaimed. "It's indeed a big deal, but the buyer is willing to pay 400 million yuan, said Yao Qinglong with a smile. "I originally planned to give 100 million yuan to each of us four brothers, but that brat Yang Lu refused me." "It must be because master left him a lot of wealth," said Du Yanghe angrily. "Else, it's impossible for him to not be tempted by 100 million yuan. Senior brother, we must kill Yang Lu and get the wealth left by master. At that time, I'll give you 40%, while third brother and I will take 30% each." Yao Qinglong secretly sneered inwardly, yet a satisfied smile appeared on his face as he said, "Since you agree to this distribution, then I won't be polite. However, if Yang Lu is willing to help me steal the formulas of those products from the magnificent Tang Corporation first, we can't act before we steal the formulas. We'll kill him after we get the formulas." "No problem." Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian seemed to be able to see the huge wealth waving at them as they nodded with satisfaction. They had long coveted the wealth left by their master. Unfortunately, their strength was not as good as Yang Li's, so they didn't even get to see the shadow of a penny. As long as they could kill Yang Lu and get the wealth, they were perfectly aware that even 30% was not more than the reward promised by Yao Qinglong. Some of the readers are shouting in the book review section for 100 monthly votes and a chapter update. Since everyone has such a wish, how can the kind and hardworking Silent Knight not fulfill everyone's wish? The latest chapter is ready. Where are the monthly tickets? Chapter 572. Time flew by and night fell in the blink of an eye. As usual, the Blue Star Villa complex was brightly illuminated by the street lamps, and the fragrance of the soil drifted amidst the drizzle. Yang Lu stayed in Villa number 11, quietly hiding in the corner of the attic on the roof, constantly observing the surroundings with the binoculars in his hand. Occasionally, he would also observe the Villa number 9 next door. They're coming. A cold light flashed in Yang Li's eyes. He grabbed the silver pistol in his left hand and aimed its black muzzle at several figures approaching Villa number 11. Although Tan Xiu didn't promise to help him when he contacted Tan Xiu on the phone, he was confident that Tan Xiu would help him. As a matter of fact, the reason why he didn't leave directly was that he used himself as bait to catch a few big fishes for Tan Xiu and get rid of some big troubles for himself. Inside Villa number 9, Tan Xiu quietly stood by the window of his study room, watching the scene outside through the gap of the curtains. When a few ghostly figures silently appeared outside the Villa number 11's courtyard wall, he dialed a number and said, "The fish has taken the bait." At this moment, even Yang Lu himself knew that 2 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall had been waiting in his bedroom for a long time. They were fiddling with daggers with bloodthirsty glints flashing in their eyes. There were also 8 experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall hiding in other rooms of the villa. A group of martial artists with extraordinary skills easily climbed over the wall. As more than a dozen people used various means to sneak into the villa, 3 figures appeared in the distance. "Junior brother, I know you're at home. We came to visit you. Don't tell me you won't open the door and invite us in?" Yao Qinglong's loud voice sounded outside the courtyard. In the corner of the attic on the roof, Yang Lu looked at the 3 people standing outside through the gap of the window. He was silent for a while before he came out of the attic and stood on the edge of the roof, saying, "Since the people you brought can come in, do you still need me to open the door myself?" Yao Qinglong and the other 2 exchanged glances. Then, they easily climbed over the courtyard door and quickly appeared in the courtyard. At this moment, the originally pitch-black villa became brightly lit. 6 strong men who had snuck into the villa in advance appeared in the hall on the first floor. "Junior brother, there's no need to hide in front of us, right?" Yao Qinglong said with a faint smile. Yang Li's figure appeared at the staircase. As he walked down the stairs, his cold gaze swept past the 6 burly men before finally landing on Yao Qinglong and the other 2. After letting out a deep sigh, Yang Lu appeared in front of the trio and said, "To tell you the truth, if you didn't come tonight, perhaps I would still care about our kinship and save your lives. Unfortunately, the moment you stepped into my courtyard, the only thing that could happen between us was you die or I die." Du Yang has sneered and said, "I say, little junior brother, who gave you the confidence to talk nonsense to us? Fight to the death? But it means you die and we live." Xiu Jian coldly said, "Little junior brother, we were careless before and let you escape from us several times. But this time, we've already set up an inescapable net. Even if you grow wings, you won't be able to escape. Therefore, if you don't want to die, hand over all the things left by Master before his death. Else, don't blame us for being ruthless and disregarding our kinship." Yang Lu looked at the trio and suddenly burst into laughter. "Ridiculous, really ridiculous. I suddenly have a feeling that Master's death is also related to you, right?" Yao Qinglong, Du Yanghe, and Xiu Jian's complexion slightly changed. Yang Lu was a meticulous person. He instantly felt that something was wrong when he saw the change in their expressions and shouted again, "Don't think I don't know that Master's body was originally very good, but he suddenly became seriously ill and passed away early. You 3 despicable and shameless villains. You forgot the grace of Master's teachings and even tried to kill him. That's really treacherous and heinous." Yao Qinglong frowned and fell into silence. He looked at Yang Lu and didn't speak. Du Yonghe was a hot-tempered person. Upon hearing Yang Li's words, he directly admitted it. Since you already know, then we won't hide it anymore. He's indeed our master, but he favors you more than the three of us. If we don't kill him, I'm afraid he'll leave all his treasures to you. Second brother. Yao Qinglong's expression drastically changed and he shouted angrily. Yang Li's pupils shrunk and disbelief filled his eyes as he muttered, I never thought that it was really you who did it. Yao Qinglong took a deep breath and strode a step toward Yang Lu. He then said in an awe-inspiring tone, since you've already swindled the real cause of Master's death from second brother's mouth, then we don't need to hide it anymore. That's right, it's indeed the slow-acting poison we got from the poison sect that finally killed him. Do you want to avenge that old geezer? Yang Li's eyes turned red and he glared at the trio with hatred. He wished he could immediately tear them apart and dismember them into pieces. Yao Qinglong shook his head and sighed. It seems that today's matter won't end well. Yang Lu, I'll give you a chance to live. Take out all the wealth left by that old geezer. Else, tonight will be the day you die. Yang Lu bit his lips and looked at the three overbearing bastards. He finally looked up to the sky and roared, Tan Xiu, help me kill them. I, Yang Lu, will be your man in the future and work for you. It's a deal. Tan Xiu's figure flickered and appeared in the hall lightning fast. Behind him, Qi Nan was fiddling with a sharp dagger while looking at Yao Qinglong and the others with a faint smile. Yao Qinglong's complexion greatly changed. The moment Tan Xiu appeared, he recognized Tan Xiu's true identity. He was a member of the Tang family, the culprit who ruined his Yao family. I've been tricked. Yao Qinglong roared and dashed toward the corridor on the left. Tan Xiu didn't move, neither did Qi Nan behind him. Just as Yao Qinglong passed through the corridor and was about to rush into a room, a large foot directly kicked him in the chest, causing his body to fly backward. The door opposite was smashed open by his body. Oomph! Inside the smashed door, an expert of the everlasting feast hall easily grabbed Yao Qinglong's neck and strode to the hall before throwing him in front of Tan Xiu. Du Yonghe and Qiu Jian were dumbfounded. They never dreamed that things would turn out like this. They were originally full of greed and tried to kill Yang Lu to get the wealth left by their master. But they didn't expect that they would fall into a trap set by someone else instead. For you. Du Yonghe's horrified eyes retracted from Yao Qinglong's body as he stared at Tan Xiu and shouted. Tan Xiu shook his head with a smile and said, You're all idiots. With Yang Li's character, why did he still stay in this villa? Don't tell me you don't know what he's relying on. Who am I? Your question is very interesting, but I don't need to tell you myself. Your eldest senior brother should be able to tell you, right? Am I right? Yao Qinglong. Blood spilled from the corner of Yao Qinglong's mouth. He struggled to crawl up from the ground and glared at Tan Xiu viciously. You're right. It's all thanks to you that my Yao family has been ruined. It's just that I didn't expect that my stupid junior brother would team up with you and set up this trap for us. What? Tan Xiu said with a smile. Are you afraid? Yao Qinglong straightened his chest and sneered. Me? Afraid? There are only a few people in this world who can make me, Yao Qinglong, afraid. You're not one of them. I'm just curious. How did Yang Lu get involved with you? Tan Xiu pointed to the direction next door and said, We're neighbors. Neighbors? Yao Qinglong nearly choked to death. Although he had sent some people to investigate that Yang Lu lived in the Blue Star Villa complex, he never expected that Tan Xiu also lived here. Aka, I need your help. Yao Qinglong grabbed his mobile and dialed a number. You should be calling for reinforcements, right? Tan Xiu said with a smile. It's all right. I'll give you a lot of time to bring out all your energy. But before that, don't let these shrimp soldiers and crab generals you brought here be an eyesore. As Tan Xiu's voice faded away, 6 corpses were thrown into the hall from various places. These people were the hidden martial artists brought by Yao Qinglong's trio. Just as Yao Qinglong's trio's complexion drastically changed, Qi Nan's figure flashed and appeared in front of the 6 stalwart men. Her saber slashed down and the throats of the 6 big men were torn in an instant. Blood splashed as they fell to the ground and twitched, gradually dying. What a strong smell of blood. I like it. A hoarse voice came from outside the hall. There was no sound of footsteps, but a thin figure appeared at the hall's entrance. He wore a black robe and had long blonde hair. His handsome face was very pale, as though he was the Grim Reaper in a horror movie. After killing the 6 people, Chi Nan had returned to Tan Xiu's side. Her eyes instantly squinted when she saw who it was. She said with a faint smile, "Grim Reaper Aka, since you like the smell of blood, then I'll let you smell your own blood later." Aka, who had a British face, looked at Chi Nan. His body suddenly trembled and his pupils instantly shrunk after he saw Chi Nan's appearance. He almost subconsciously turned around and ran outside. "Come back." Tan Xiu dashed outside like a lightning bolt and appeared in front of Aka in the blink of an eye. With a round of bombardment on Aka's chest, he was directly thrown back to the hall's entrance. "What?" Yao Qinglong's body shook and disbelief burst out from his eyes. He was well aware of Aka's identity. He had spent a great deal of money to hire this expert from the organization. Yet, this recognized expert in the organization was so easily defeated by Tan Xiu? Aka struggled to get up from the ground. His eyes only stayed on Tan Xiu for a moment before they finally fell on Chi Nan. He said with a face full of horror, "Sir Instructor, I didn't expect to see you here. I'm very honored to see your beauty again in this life. Today, the 2nd chapter is here. You still need 20 monthly votes for the 3rd chapter. Brothers and sisters, you can do it." Chapter 573. Even if Tan Xiu's strength was extraordinary, Aka still didn't think that Tan Xiu was more terrifying than Chi Nan. In Aka's eyes, Chi Nan was a demoness who killed without batting an eyelid. She once cleaned up the Mexican drug dealers and was one of the best among the international terrorist forces. Aka didn't expect that. The first time he came to China, he unexpectedly encountered the demonic instructor who had trained him in the past. He didn't expect that he and the demonic instructor would stand on the opposite side. He clearly remembered what Chi Nan once said, "You may be my students now, but if we become enemies in the future, I will use more ruthless and cruel means to make you regret being my enemy." Aka was restless and a bit of hatred toward Yao Qinglong. He could have provoked anyone, but he had to provoke the demonic instructor. Wasn't this just dragging him down? Chi Nan lightly said, "Aka, it's been 4 or 5 years since we last met, right? I didn't expect you to become someone's running dog. Furthermore, you've become my enemy." Aka's expression changed as he panicked and said, "Sir Instructor, I think you misunderstood. Yao Qinglong and I are only in an employer-employee relationship. He gave a lot of money to the organization, so the organization sent me to help him. If I knew you were here, I wouldn't have dared to come even if I had all the money in Citibank." Tan Xiu frowned as he looked at Chi Nan and lightly asked, "Do you know each other?" Chi Nan put away her cold arrogance and respectfully said, "Boss, he used to be a student I trained. He's an outstanding assassin of the Arabian Black Base. However, I don't know which organization he belongs to now." Tan Xiu nodded and looked at Aka, asking, "Tell me the name of your organization." Aka's lips squirmed a few times as he shook his head and said, "I can't say it. Else I'll die a miserable death." Tan Xiu indifferently said, "You'll die a more miserable death if you don't say it. Don't try your luck. I'm a doctor, and I'm known as a divine doctor in China. I have a way to make you suffer incomparable pain and suffering and still survive. Say it. Otherwise, you'll have to endure the pain and torture every night." Aka's expression changed. Even though Tan Xiu's English was very bad, he still understood what Tan Xiu meant. He had also heard of the godly doctor from China. It was a very magical type of doctor. He was in awe of doctors because there was a killer doctor in the organization. He had the ability to save people and kill people. He was definitely a terrifying existence who used torture. Aka shook his head bitterly and said, "I can't say. Otherwise, the whole family will be implicated." Tang Xiu squinted his eyes and a few silver needles appeared in his hand out of thin air. His figure flickered and pierced the needles into Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian's bodies before he flashed back to his previous position. Ah, never in their wildest dreams did Du Yanghe and Qiu Jian expect that Aka's refusal would lead to them being attacked by Tang Xiu. What pained them the most was that the silver needles pierced their bodies, causing an indescribable pain to erupt inside them. Their bodies fell to the ground in just a few seconds. Every muscle in their bodies was convulsing and their bodies were distorted. Blue veins and blood vessels protruded all over their bodies as they convulsed and rolled on the ground. Tan Xiu ignored them for the time being and even ignored Aka. He looked at Yao Qinglong and said with a smile, "I don't think I need to tell you what will happen to you next, right? Since I have the ability to kill your Yao family's patriarch and destroy your family, it means that my strength is very terrifying, far beyond your imagination. So I want to know everything about you, including the businesses you do abroad, the wealth you have, the organization you joined, and so on. Of course, if you tell me honestly and pay a big price, I can guarantee that you'll live." Yao Qinglong looked at his two junior brothers on the ground, who were howling in pain like wild beasts. A chill instantly spread all over his body. Tan Xiu's threat to Aka just now was actually a threat to him. He was perfectly aware of the Divine Doctor's ability, and he was even more aware that the Divine Doctor of China was even more terrifying than those international Western medicine experts and professors. "Can you really guarantee my safety?" Yao Qinglong deeply looked at Tan Xiu and then at Qi Nan and Aka. Finally, he asked with a deathly ashen face. "Of course, but it depends on your performance." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "I'm not an executioner, and I don't like killing people. Else, none of your Yao family's clansmen will be alive now." "All right, I'll tell you everything. I just hope you can keep your promise," said Yao Qinglong in a deep voice. Aka's expression greatly changed and he angrily shouted, "Yao Qinglong, have you forgotten the organization's doctrine? You'll die a very, very miserable death if you tell others." Yao Qinglong shook his head and said, "I know I'll die a very miserable death if I tell you. But if I don't tell you now, I'm afraid I'll die even more miserably. Aka, Tan Xiu is very terrifying. He's definitely the most terrifying person I've ever met. He can make your instructor his subordinate. Don't tell me you haven't realized this?" Aka gasped for a few times and fell into silence. Afterward, Yao Qinglong told him in detail that he received an order from the Yao family's patriarch, Yao Qingzuan, to manage his business abroad more than a decade ago. The Yao family operated a variety of businesses abroad and invested a lot of money. After more than a decade of development and Yao Qinglong's ruthlessness, he secretly occupied the businesses of several families. Eventually, his total assets had reached tens of billions of dollars. Later on, with the help of the Stygian Club, he trained a large number of people abroad and secretly devoured the wealth of a lot of rich and powerful people. He also destroyed many small families and tycoons and took a lot of money for himself. The power he possessed was only slightly worse than the Yao family in the imperial capital. The Stygian Club was an organization with 3 major forces as its core and 12 families as its combined force. It also had more than 40 affiliated forces. Nowadays, the power possessed by the Stygian Club was definitely among the top 3 in the world. Additionally, the Stygian Club had dozens of teams such as an assassin department, intelligence department, regulatory department, mercenary team, security team, financial team, and so on. There were countless talents inside. Aka was a member of the assassin department, and his rank was only in the hundreds. After listening to Yao Qinglong's story, everyone in the room was shocked. Even Tan Xiu looked solemn, faintly feeling the terror of the Stygian Club. Who's the most powerful person in the Stygian Club? Tan Xiu found that Yao Qinglong didn't mention this point, so he immediately asked in a deep voice, "I don't know." Yao Qinglong shook his head. Tan Xiu looked at Aka and indifferently asked, "Can you tell me?" "I won't tell you even if I know," said Aka. "But I really don't know. Nobody knows who the Stygian Club's leader is, unless it's the top members of the 3 major forces and the 12 families." "Yao Qinglong, I won't ask any more since you don't know." Tan Xiu nodded. "What I want to know is why you came back to China. And why are you targeting the magnificent Tang Corporation? Are you the one who wants the magnificent Tang Corporation's product formulas? Or is it the Stygian Club's people who want those formulas?" It's Ing Daofu, the Moya family's patriarch. He's also one of the 12 family's powerful figures. Yao Qinglong seemed to be ready to throw caution to the wind. Tang Xiu nodded and said, "Kill the rest except for Yao Qinglong." Immediately, the Everlasting Feast Hall's experts instantly moved and easily killed Aka, Du Yanghe, and Qiu Jian. Yao Qinglong secretly felt lucky inwardly. He found that his choice was right. He knew that Tan Xiu was ruthless and ruthless, so he cooperated and told everything. Even if he concealed some things, he firmly believed that everything he said would have a very important effect on Tan Xiu. "Yao Qinglong, I found that you're the only wonderful person in your Yao family," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "I promised you that I wouldn't kill you, but I didn't say that my men won't kill you. But I think you're a good man, so I'll give you a chance to live." The worry inside Yao Qinglong's heart finally vanished along with Tan Xiu's words. He knew that he would have to pay a huge price, but he wouldn't hesitate even if he had to sacrifice everything in order to survive. "Hence," he seriously said, "Mr. Tang, please tell me, transfer all the wealth you control to my name," said Tan Xiu. "I'll send someone to follow you abroad to take over everything you have. You should be aware that the more you have, the more threat you'll be to me. So it's up to you." Yao Qinglong was silent for a moment before he slowly said, "I'll make a phone call first and ask my men to transfer all my savings in the Swiss bank to your name. Also, transfer all the liquid funds of several large companies I control to you. The rest of the industries will be handed over to your men later." A wise man submits to circumstances. Tan Xiu gave a thumbs up and praised, "You're very good, Qinan. I'll leave this matter to you. I'll contact Xiao Xue later and ask her to send some men to you." "Understood." Qinan's eyes lit up and she immediately replied excitedly. This was Tan Xiu delegating power to her, and it was a great authority. She knew that if she could handle this matter well, her status in the Everlasting Feast Hall would be greatly improved. At the very least, she would be on par with Hao Lei and Tian Li. "Do you agree to my solution?" Tan Xiu looked at Yang Lu and asked. Yang Lu wanted Yao Qinglong to die, because Yao Qinglong would always be a problem for him. However, since Tan Xiu wanted Yao Qinglong's wealth, it would be very difficult for him to kill Yao Qinglong. Although he was somewhat dissatisfied, he still nodded silently. "All right, I believe Yao Qinglong won't bother you anymore in the future," said Tan Xiu. "Am I right, Yao Qinglong?" "I promise that I'll avoid Yang Li even if I see him in the future," said Yao Qinglong quickly. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction. Then, an undetectable voice entered Yang Li's ears. "Since you want to go abroad, I think it's a good choice to go with Qinan to have fun. After everything is settled smoothly, you can deal with Yao Qinglong as you want." Brothers and sisters, you're too awesome. Today's third update. She decided to stay in Charm City to develop, not only because of her family's dispute, but also because of Tan Xiu. She knew very well that Tan Xiu would probably not settle down in Shanghai in the future. At the very least, he would have to stay in Shanghai for the next 4 years. She was a woman who found it hard to fall in love, but once she did, it would be hard for her to restrain herself and she would be dead set on a man. Even though she knew that with Tan Xiu's ability, he would never be able to have only one woman in the future. But if she wanted to fight for her own happiness, then she must take the initiative. At the very least, she had to let Tan Xiu have a place for her in his heart. Today, Tan Xiu didn't drive but walked to the campus instead. Therefore, the duo strolled back to the Blue Star Villa complex and came to the front of the villa's garage. "This is the Koenigsegg?" As the electric door slowly opened, Mu Weining, who was standing outside, saw the luxury sports car parked outside. Tan Xiu blinked and suddenly recalled that his aunt, Tang Min, had called him when he went to Jingmen Island some time ago. She said that there was a good foreign luxury sports car, so she ordered it for him and even delivered it to the Blue Star Villa complex. He had been driving the Land Rover Range Rover since he came back, and it was parked directly in the courtyard. He had never opened the garage, so he had never seen this sports car. He didn't know much about luxury cars, so he didn't even know the name of this sports car. Mu Weining didn't wait for Tan Xiu's reply and hurriedly ran to the front of the sports car. She found that it was stained with some dust, so she personally found a towel and a basin of water and wiped it with all seriousness. It didn't take long for the new sports car to appear in front of the duo. Tan Xiu had been watching Mu Weining busying herself. Finally, after Mu Weining threw the towel into the basin, he said with a smile, "Since you like this car, then let's drive it out for a stroll today. It shouldn't be a problem to show off once in a while." "That's great." Mu Weining giggled. "I've only seen the appearance and introduction of this car in car magazines before, but I've never seen the real thing. Is this car very famous?" Tan Xiu curiously asked. Mu Weining looked at Tan Xiu with a strange expression and said, "The name Koenigsegg isn't a household name in the supercar industry, and its fame can't be compared to Ferrari and Bugatti. But this Swedish company's Agera R sports car is equipped with a twin-turbocharged V8 engine with a maximum output of 1,124 horsepower and a top speed of 440 kilometers per hour. What's more frightening is that it only takes 2.8 seconds to accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour and only 11.7 seconds to reach a terrifying speed of 300 kilometers per hour. Do you know how much its selling price is?" "How much?" asked Tan Xiu with a blank expression. 10 million, said Mu Weining seriously. Despite having a lot of money, Tan Xiu was still taken aback by the 10 million figure. He never expected that his aunt, Tang Min, would spend so much. The total value of the 4 cars before was more than 10 million, and now the price of this car was more than 10 million. Was she asking him to squander? "How is it?" Mu Weining smiled. "Big Boss Tang, are you also shocked by this number?" Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "It's not that I'm shocked. I just feel that it's a bit extravagant. After all, it's very difficult for an ordinary person to earn 10 million in their lifetime, yet this car costs so much. It's really strange," said Mu Weining curiously. "You don't seem to know your own car." "I went to Jingmen Island a few days ago," said Tan Xiu with a forced smile. "My aunt called me and said that she had booked a car for me abroad. She had already given me 4 cars, and I thought that she just casually ordered one, so I didn't take it seriously. I've been driving that Land Rover ever since I came back. It was because Chi Nan drove that car last night, so I opened the garage door for the first time after I came back. Who would have thought that it turned out to be such a luxurious sports car?" "Your aunt really dotes on you too much," exclaimed Mu Weining. "Anyways, let's go, boyfriend. Drive this car and take me out for a stroll." "How about you drive it?" asked Tan Xiu hesitantly. Mu Weining thought for a moment and said with a smile, "Then I'll drive it. This luxurious sports car must be awesome to drive." 2 minutes later, Mu Weining drove the Agera R sports car out of the Blue Star Villa complex's gate. Just the journey to the villa attracted a lot of attention. The several security guards on duty stood straight and saluted more vigorously than before. A nice car and a beautiful woman. Suddenly, Tang Xiu had a feeling that he seemed to have turned into a second-generation hedonistic son of a rich family with luxurious cars and beautiful women. If he were to hold a glass of red wine and smoke a cigarette, wouldn't that be the life of a celestial being? "Weining, do you want to go for a drink after we're done looking at the house? I seem to have passed by several good bars with a good atmosphere," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Sure," said Mu Weining with a shallow smile. "Where are we going to look at the house?" asked Tan Xiu with a faint smile. "Have you investigated it before?" "I've checked it on the internet. I'm quite optimistic about the Lauren Villa complex," said Mu Weining. "But the location of the villa is a bit far. It's more than an hour's drive from my company, and that's if there's no traffic jam. The Century Classic Villa complex is good, but it's not a standalone villa. I like that kind of standalone villa, preferably one with a private swimming pool." Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment and said, "Then, let's both go and have a look. We'll decide which one we like in the end." "All right." Mu Weining nodded with a smile. The Agera R sports car was like a super attractive magnet as it drove on the street, attracting the attention of many people. Many of them looked envious and jealous, fantasizing that they could own such a cool and handsome luxury supercar one day. At the Lauren Villa complex, Han Jin-tong was comfortably sitting on the balcony of the villa building, basking in the sun and smoking a cigarette. Having lived to his age, he had already accepted a lot of things. Therefore, apart from cultivating every day, he enjoyed the rest of his life. It could be said that he lived the most comfortable life among the residents in the entire villa complex. Of course, his popularity was also the best. It would be even more perfect if second brother and his family of 3 came back from abroad. Han Jin-tong squinted his eyes and looked at the scenery of the villa complex in the distance. However, he was slightly surprised when a luxury sports car slowly drove into the villa complex. Because he would bask in the sun here every day on a sunny day, and recently he had seen more than half of the luxury cars in the villa complex. But he was sure that he had never seen this very handsome sports car. Which family's prodigal kid got a new car again? Han Jin-tong sighed. His eyes followed the car until it stopped in front of the property management building 200 or 300 meters away. Because he could see the parking lot in front of the property management building from where he stood. When the luxury sports car stopped and a man and a woman got out of the car, his expression changed and he let out a soft cry of surprise. Tan Xiu? Han Jin-tong admitted that he was old, but he would never admit that he was presbyopic. He clearly recognized that the handsome young man was Tan Xiu. He was very afraid of Tan Xiu's identity and wanted to establish some friendship with Tan Xiu. It was a pity that his precious granddaughter was Tan Xiu's teacher, and there seemed to be some unhappiness between the two. Otherwise, he would have hoped that his granddaughter, Han Qingwu, could become Tan Xiu's girlfriend, and it would be best if she could become his wife in the future. Today's first update: the monthly votes have exploded. The game continues. Chapter 575. As a black car parked next to the Adra R sports car, a young and beautiful girl got off the driver's seat. Although this girl's beauty was not worth mentioning compared to Mu Weiniang's, she was still a goddess in the eyes of many boys. Her name was Li Jing, the sales lady of the Roland Villa complex. Li Jing's recent performance was very poor due to some unspoken rules in the real estate market, which she really didn't want to accept. The manager even said that if she couldn't sell a house this month, she would directly pack up and leave. Therefore, although she was very impatient, she also looked forward to the stars and the moon, hoping that a rich customer would visit her. It would be best if the customer was a woman. However, today, she was thinking about something at the entrance of the sales center when she saw a handsome man and a beautiful woman coming, so she directly greeted them. She was looking forward to it because the man and woman in front of her, be it their clothes or the luxury sports car they drove, looked like rich people. Mr. Tang, Miss Mu, there are only 4 villas left in our Roland Villa complex. I've already introduced 3 of them to you in the sales center. You're not satisfied with 3 of them, so I'll take you directly to the number 9 villa. Please come with me. It's very close to here. Tan Xiu and Mu Weining nodded slightly and followed Li Jing on foot for a minute or two before they arrived at the number 9 villa. It was a European-style villa with a total of 3 floors and a large area. The most satisfactory thing was that there were hundreds of square meters of lawn and garden in front of the door. It's very stylish. The price shouldn't be cheap, right? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. It's indeed not cheap, said Li Jing. Due to the rapid growth of the housing prices recently, the price here has reached 145,000 yuan per square meter. The lawn and garden outside the villa are complimentary, but it's still 460 square meters. The total price is 66.7 million yuan. With my authority, I can give you a 5% discount. The transaction price is 365 million yuan. If you pay the full amount in one go, I can also help you apply for a discount of 65,000 yuan. Tan Xiu looked at Mu Weiniang with a questioning look in his eyes. Mu Weiniang nodded silently, indicating that she could accept the price. Her performance made Tan Xiu have a whole new level of respect for her, because he didn't expect Mu Weiniang to earn such a huge sum of money in such a short period of time. After that, the two toured the villa under Li Jing's guidance. The overall layout was very good, and there was a very spacious private swimming pool on the west side of the first floor. Nowadays, villas with indoor private swimming pools were very rare. Deal. After Mu Weining finished reading, she immediately made a decision. Li Jing's eyes revealed a pleasantly surprised look. Just as she left the villa with Tan Xiao and Mu Weining ready to go to the sales center to handle the transaction procedures, Han Jintong, who had been waiting outside the door for a long time, stopped the three of them. "Grandpa Han, you didn't sunbathe on the balcony today? Why did you come out for a stroll?" Li Jing was obviously very familiar with Han Jintong as she greeted him with a smile. Han Jintong faintly smiled and slightly nodded to her before looking at Tan Xiao. A bit of respect appeared on his old face as he said, "Are you here to buy a house, Mr. Tang?" Tan Xiao didn't expect that he would meet Han Jintong here. He shook his head and said, "I'm not buying it. I'm just accompanying a friend to buy it." Han Jintong looked at Mu Weining and felt a bit regretful inwardly. He also thought that if his granddaughter worked hard, perhaps she would have a chance with Tan Xiao. But looking at Mu Weining, he knew that there was no hope for his granddaughter since she was too good-looking. Not only was her appearance, figure, and temperament not inferior to his granddaughter, but she was even better. Alas, with his identity and status, I'm afraid only such a girl can be worthy of him, right? Han Jintong sighed deeply inwardly. "Grandpa Han, do you know Mr. Tang?" asked the sales lady, Li Jing, in surprise. Tan Xiao didn't wait for Han Jintong to answer and rushed to answer first. "I've met him once, but I'm not familiar with him." Upon hearing it, Han Jintong's breath stagnated and he immediately forced a wry smile inwardly. If it were someone else, he would have either slapped them or turned around and left. But how could he afford to offend this lord in front of him? With a bit of awkwardness on his old face, Han Jintong said, "Although I've only met Mr. Tang once, I admire him very much. Literally, since Mr. Tang's friend wants to buy a house, you must give a discount on the price." "I'll call the manager right away," said Li Jing quickly. Tan Xiao slightly furrowed his brows as he looked at Han Jintong and asked, "Is your face very valuable?" Cough, cough. Han Jintong choked and coughed a few times upon hearing Tan Xiao's question. However, he came here eagerly to express his goodwill, so he said, "It should be worth some money. The owner of this villa complex used to be my second son's right-hand man. The house I'm living in now is my second son's house." Tan Xiao nodded. He then looked at Li Jing and said, "Don't call him. Let's sign the agreement according to the price we've agreed on. Are you all right with it, Weining?" A strange glint flashed in Mu Weining's eyes. With her intelligence, she instantly understood that Tan Xiao didn't want to accept the kindness of the old man in front of her, and even deliberately kept a distance from him. Therefore, she let out a faint smile and said, "No problem. I'll pay the full amount after signing the agreement." Li Jing looked at Tan Xiao and Han Jintong in front of her with an awkward expression. She found the manager's phone number in her phone book and didn't know whether she should press the dial button or not. Han Jintong let out a hollow laugh. He found that Tan Xiao didn't want to accept his kindness, so he immediately said, "Then let's do it according to Mr. Tang's intention. The customer is God, and we must do our best to serve them. Also, I still have something to do, so I can't accompany you anymore, Mr. Tang. Goodbye." After saying that, Han Jintong left with a dejected expression. Li Jing was also a smart girl. She could clearly see that Han Jintong was obviously flattering Tan Xiao. Therefore, she secretly decided that when she met the manager, she must report this matter to him. If possible, she would strive to give more discounts to the customer. "Both of you, let's go back to the sales center." At the sales center, Fong Chang sat comfortably on the European-style sofa, crossed his legs, and looked at Hao Qian, who was standing in front of him and fawning over him. As the manager of the sales center, he had a lot of power and a lot of money. Especially the sales ladies who worked here, each and every one of them fawned on him. "Shall we have dinner together tonight, Qian?" Fong Chang thought of Hao Qian's fair and tender flesh under her work uniform, and his heart was boiling hot. He was not a decent person. He had bedded several of the saleswomen in the sales center, and the beautiful Hao Qian in front of him was no exception. Hao Qian deliberately pouted and spoke with a bit of a coquettish tone. Brother Chang, it's naturally not a problem to have dinner with you tonight. However, my customer hopes that you can lower the price of Villa number 9. Fong Chang slightly furrowed his brows and said, the price I gave him is already very low, yet he actually wants to lower it again. Isn't this making things difficult for me? Besides, the villas in our Lauren Villa complex are not that difficult to sell. Even if he doesn't buy it now, I'm sure there will be other customers coming to see the house in a few days. If it's really not possible, just reject it. Hao Qian was anxious. She came to Fong Chang's side and sat down. She looked around and found that no one was paying attention to their corner. She immediately raised her hand and placed it on Fong Chang's thigh. Her slender little finger even drew a circle on the inside of his thigh and said in a coquettish manner, Brother Chang, it's hard to say if other customers will come over and count it as my business. Can't you just help me out a little? At worst, I'll just wear the nurse uniform you bought last time. Really? Fong Chang's spirit shook and he quickly asked. It's absolutely true. Tonight, said Hao Qian with all seriousness. Fong Chang raised his hand to touch his chin and thought for a few seconds. Then he happily said, all right then. Call the customer to sign the agreement this afternoon. Tell him I'll only give him this afternoon. All right. Thank you, Brother Chang. Hao Qian happily glanced around. Then she hugged Fong Chang's neck and kissed his face. She then grabbed her mobile and dialed a number. She spent a minute or two to communicate with the other party and agreed to sign the purchase agreement at the sales center at 2:30 in the afternoon. 10 minutes later, Li Jing walked briskly as she led Tan Xiao and Mu Weining to the sales center. Mr. Tang, Miss Mu, please wait in the rest area. I'll make the contract and we'll sign the purchase agreement later. All right. Tan Xiao and Mu Weining were not in a hurry and came to the rest area to sit down. Li Jing busied herself for a while. After finishing the purchase agreement, she didn't immediately go to see Tan Xiao and Mu Weining. Instead, she went to find Fong Chang. She couldn't hide the excitement in her eyes as she said, Manager, my customer is going to buy our number 9 villa. I've negotiated the price with them and now. Fong Chang waved his hand to interrupt her and lightly said, the number 9 villa has been booked. Tell your customer to choose the other 3 villas. Li Jing was dumbfounded. She stared blankly at Fong Chang as if she couldn't believe her ears. She had just checked the real estate system and found that the number 9 villa had not been booked at all. Even the deposit had not been paid. Manager, are you sure you're not mistaken? Fong Chang frowned and unhappily said, the number 9 villa has just been booked. I didn't make a mistake. The one who booked the number 9 villa is Hao Qian's customer. They'll come here this afternoon to sign the purchase agreement. All right, don't bother me anymore if there's nothing else. Li Jing quickly said, Manager, the consistent principle of our sales department is that whoever pays the money first gets the house. If the other party has paid the deposit, I'll leave immediately. But my clients have already agreed that once they sign the purchase contract, they will immediately pay the full amount. Today's second update. Can today's monthly votes exceed 100? Chapter 576. Fong Chang's expression slightly changed and his eyes were filled with anger. He didn't like Li Jing. No, it was more accurate to say that he liked Li Jing very much. He once wanted to get her into his bed. Unfortunately, Li Jing didn't have a good impression of him and wouldn't agree no matter what. Therefore, he secretly instructed other saleswomen to compete for Li Jing's clients. He even gave others a lower discount than Li Jing, making Li Jing unable to negotiate a deal. Now, he only gave Li Jing 2 choices. First, climb into his bed like a bitch, and second, pack up and get the hell out of here. As for selling a house, even if Li Jing's mission was up to standard, he was just teasing her. I told you that the 9th villa has been booked by someone else. The deposit will be transferred to the company's financial account later. I understand that you want to sell the house, but you can't snatch it from someone else, right? All right, go ask your client if he wants to choose another villa. If not, then get the hell out of here. Tears overflowed from Li Jing's eyes. The grievance in her heart made her want to slap Fong Chong a few times, but her rationality told her not to do so. She couldn't lose her job and the house must be sold because she needed to make money to pay the mortgage and send money to her parents in her hometown. Suddenly, she recalled something and resisted the urge to cry, saying, "Manager, since you're willing to sell the 9th villa to someone else, then I'll forget about it. But my 2 clients are very special. Uncle Han, who lives in the 8th building, seems to know them. He's very cordial in front of them." Fong Chong slightly furrowed his brows and immediately sneered, "Are you trying to tell me that old Han's second son used to be our big boss's right-hand man, and our big boss's current achievements are inseparable from his help?" "Isn't that so?" Li Jing said. Fong Chong stood up and said with a sneer, "Li Jing, do you know why you have no achievements in our sales center? That is, you are too stupid, inflexible and inflexible. What era are we in now? Live with that gratitude? Our boss is much more capable than Old Man Han's son back then. Do you think our boss will still give in to Old Man Han's son? Ridiculous." The glimmer of hope that just rose in Li Jing was destroyed by Fong Chong's words. She was unwilling, but she didn't know what else to say. Suddenly, she mustered up her courage and made a decision in her heart. He turned around and left. Under Fong Chong's sneering gaze, he returned to his office. It only took him a few minutes to get Chen Bin's phone number. Shanghai Grand Corporation. Chen Bin, who had a net worth of billions, was currently sitting in the reception room, receiving guests. This was a big boss that he had invited many times over. His status in Shanghai and his wealth were much greater than his. "Brother Jean, I've already expressed my intentions, and I've also clearly stated all the profits I've given out. As long as you are willing to hand over those projects to me, I promise to complete them with quality and quantity. Moreover, this doesn't affect your next big plan. It's simply the best of both worlds." Ever since Chen Bin got the news that Jin Xingkue intended to subcontract the other projects in his hands, he had been looking forward to taking over from Jin Xingkue. Jin Xingkue lightly smiled and said, "Brother Chen, we're all in the construction industry, so we know each other very well. However, more than a dozen construction companies have approached me recently, and some of them have offered much more than you. It'll be really difficult for me if you can't give me some profits." Chen Bin secretly cursed Jin Xingkue for being greedy, but he still said with a smile on his face, "Brother Jin, how about this? I'll ask my men to make a new agreement, and the conditions will definitely be better than this. Since we have time today, how about we go to the golf course and play a few rounds?" Jin Xingkue shook his head and smilingly said, "Brother Chen, you might have the leisure and elegance, but I can't. My new project has just started construction recently, and I've got all kinds of things to worry about. Let's wait for later. We'll go and play a few rounds later when we have time." Chen Bin was a bit disappointed and envious. But he had no choice since Jin Xingkue's business was booming, especially the new project, which had a huge amount of work. Once it was completed, he would be rolling in money. Ring, ring, ring. The call from an unknown number made Chen Bin swallow back the words he wanted to say. After hesitating for a moment, he apologetically looked at Jin Xingkue and answered the call. "I'm Chen Bin. What's the matter?" "Hello, boss. I'm Li Jing, a salesperson from the Lauren Villa Complex's sales center. I really shouldn't have disturbed you, but I have something very important to report to you." "Say it." Chen Bin instinctively wanted to hang up the phone when he heard Li Jing's identity. After all, he was very disgusted by this kind of action of skipping a level to contact him. However, Li Jing's last sentence made him temporarily give up the idea of hanging up the phone. Li Jing had already considered what she wanted to say in her heart. She was already holding on to her last hope. She even had the thought of throwing caution to the wind. Not only did she tell him about Fong Chang's actions, but she also told him about the customer who had come to buy the house today. Finally, she said, "Boss, Manager Fong said that you're the kind of businessman who burns bridges after crossing the river. You only chase after benefits and don't care about old friendships. That's why Grandpa Han attaches great importance to Mr. Tang. Even his words and actions are somewhat flattering. Also, those 2 guests are driving very luxurious sports cars. I just secretly checked the internet and found that the value of that sports car is more than 10 million yuan. I think that their identities are not ordinary. Chen Bin's heart was filled with anger after listening to it. This anger was not directed at Li Jing, but at Feng Chang. Outsiders might not know his relationship with the Han family, but he was very clear about it. If it weren't for Han Jintong's son back then, he would have been just a small gangster now. Therefore, even after all these years, he still remembered the other party's good deeds and even treated Han Jintong like a family member and elder. Also, what shocked him was that the other party's identity was indeed not to be underestimated, since he could drive a luxury sports car worth 10 million yuan. The water in Shanghai was very deep. Even if he had a net worth of billions, he was still treading on thin ice for fear of offending someone he couldn't afford to offend. Chen Bin pondered for a moment and then asked, "Who's Mr. Tang?" "Tan Xiu," said Li Jing. Chen Bin thought about it and felt that the name was somewhat familiar. It was as if he had heard it somewhere, but he couldn't remember it for a while. However, the person who could be courted by Han Jintong's grandpa Han and even had an obvious flattering attitude was probably not ordinary. "I see. I'll go to the villa complex later." Chen Bin hung up the phone after saying that. After hesitating for a while, he looked at Jin Xingkui and asked, "Brother Jin, I want to ask you something. Have you ever heard of a young man named Tan Xiu?" Jin Xingkui stared blankly for a moment before his expression changed, and he asked in a deep voice, "If my guess is correct, I do know him. Why are you asking me about Tan Xiu, Chen Bin?" Chen Bin was very astute. He couldn't help but be more cautious after noticing the change in Jin Xingkui's expression and the way he addressed him. He then said, "It's like this. A staff member of the Villa Complex's sales center just reported a situation to me." He narrated the whole story with a serious expression and finally said, "I feel that the name Tang Xiu is somewhat familiar. It's like I've heard it somewhere, but I can't remember it for the time being. But Brother Jin, you're knowledgeable and have a wide network, so I want to ask you about it." A strange expression was revealed on Jin Xingkui's face. He shot a deep look at Chen Bin before he got up and said, "Brother Chen, I think I'm very satisfied with the offer you gave me before. You don't need to ask your men to draw up a new proposal. We can sign the contract today. But I have a request." Chen Bin was dumbfounded. He was very astute, yet he was still a bit confused and disoriented by Jin Xingkui's sudden change of topic. "Please say it." Chen Bin cautiously said. "Didn't Tan Xiu want to buy the villa complex of yours?" said Jin Xingkui. "Sell it to him, and sell it to him for only 1 yuan. Chen Bin instantly sucked in a cold breath after hearing it. Even if he couldn't figure it out at the moment, he also understood that Jin Xingkui had agreed to cooperate with him because of this Tan Xiu. Who the hell is this guy? Not only did he make the old man Han Jintong come to flatter him, but even a big shot like Jin Xingkui gave up a lot of benefits for him? Chen Bin cautiously probed, "Brother Jin, this Mr. Tang, he has many identities, so I won't introduce them one by one," said Jin Xingkui. "But I'll tell you 2 things. First, Tan Xiu is someone I can't afford to offend. Even if there are 10 of me, I still can't afford to offend him. Second, he's my friend and also my partner. Although I'm the chief surgeon of my new city's construction project, I'm also a major shareholder." "Hiss!" Chen Bin immediately gasped after hearing it. At this moment, he cursed Feng Chang inwardly, wishing that he could slap him to death. Such a big shot wanted to buy a villa complex in his villa complex, yet Feng Chang unexpectedly refused to let him in just to make things difficult for a saleswoman? "Brother Jin, I'll immediately rush to the Roland Villa complex and sell it to Mr. Tang for 1 yuan according to what you said." Jin Xingkui nodded and said, "If that's the case, then go there. It's not convenient for me to appear there, so don't mention anything between us to him. I'll wait for you at Jinda Real Estate after everything is done. I'll be waiting for you with the contract." "Brother Jin, I'll definitely handle this matter well," said Chen Bin with all seriousness. "Actually, I'll do it even if you don't say it. Elder Han is my elder, so I absolutely don't dare to disobey his words." Jin Xingkui nodded with a smile, but inwardly he admired Tan Xiu from the bottom of his heart. He had heard of Han Jintong's name. He was a very capable old man who didn't reveal his talents. His second son used to be a very powerful businessman in Shanghai. Later on, his business became very big and he had now emigrated to a foreign country to develop his business. Chapter 577. Roland Villa Complex, Real Estate Sales Center. Tan Xiao and Mu Weining were sitting in the rest area, waiting for Li Jing. But even after more than half an hour, they still didn't see her figure. Just when the two of them were surprised, Li Jing slowly came. Her hands were empty when she came back. "What happened?" asked Tan Xiao with a puzzled expression. Li Jing didn't know what her boss meant, so she wasn't sure whether her complaint would be useful or not. However, she had already packed up her things in the office. If her boss came and was not satisfied with her, she would probably be kicked out. Li Jing felt somewhat apologetic toward Tan Xiao and Mu Weining. She felt that she should have implicated them, so she said, "Mr. Tang, Miss Mu. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Something happened just now, so our boss is rushing here. I believe he'll be here soon. Can the two of you wait a little longer?" "Something happened?" asked Mu Weining. "What happened?" Li Jing wanted to say something but hesitated. Looking at her appearance, Tan Xiao slightly furrowed his brows and asked, "What's the name of your boss?" "Chen Bin." Li Jing secretly heaved a sigh of relief and answered, "Chen Bin?" Tan Xiao searched his memory and found that he had never heard of this name. It was obvious that he didn't know him. Perhaps the problem just now should be an internal problem of their company. As he thought up to there, he looked at Mu Weining and said, "We have nothing to do in the morning anyway, so let's wait a little longer." "Alright." Mu Weining came out to buy a house because she had an ulterior motive. As long as she could be alone with Tan Xiao, it didn't matter where it was. Upon seeing that Tan Xiao and Tang Xiao were willing to wait, Li Jing immediately looked at them gratefully and personally changed their cups of tea. Then, just as he was about to go to the entrance to wait for his big boss, Fang Chang leisurely strolled over with his left hand in his pocket. His eyes swept over Mu Weining, and a stunned expression suddenly appeared on his face when he saw Mu Weining's appearance. However, he didn't dare to provoke the guests even though he had great power in this sales center. After all, those who could afford such a luxurious house worth tens of millions were not ordinary people. However, he did not dare to provoke Tan Xiao and Mu Weining, but he dared to teach Li Jing a lesson. He felt that if he could teach Li Jing a lesson in front of Mu Weining, he would be able to elevate his status. Therefore, he raised his chin and said, "Li Jing, what's the situation here? Didn't you tell the client that Villa number 9 has been sold?" Li Jing opened her mouth, and her face turned pale in an instant. Fang Chang raised his eyebrows and said, "What about you? Although Villa number 9 has been sold, there are still 3 other villas that haven't been sold yet. If you don't think you're capable of providing customer service, then I'll do it myself." Tan Xiao frowned and looked at Li Jing asking, "What happened?" Li Jing found that she could no longer hide the fire in the paper, so she simply hardened her heart and said, "Mr. Tang, Miss Mu, I'm really sorry. Originally, when I introduced Villa number 9 to you and took you to visit Villa number 9, that villa still existed. But when I brought you back to draw up the contract, he told me that someone had booked Villa number 9 and that the other party would come to pay and sign the contract in the afternoon. As a matter of fact, according to our company's regulations, the villa belongs to whoever pays first. I argued with him, but he used his manager's identity to pressure me. I'm sorry, I've tried to remedy the situation. Please wait for a while." Fang Chang never dreamed that Li Jing would turn all the spearhead against him. Was she complaining to the client? Anger surged in his chest as he fiercely glared at Li Jing and scolded, "What the hell are you talking about? Who used his manager's identity to pressure you? Li Jing, I suspect that there's something wrong with your work attitude. You're not worthy to be a staff member of our Roland Villa Complex's sales center. I hereby announce that you're fired. Go back and pack your things and then leave." Manager Fang is so awe-inspiring. An indifferent voice came from the direction of the sales center's entrance. Several men and women clustered around a middle-aged man and strode over. The middle-aged man was the one who spoke. The familiar voice made Fang Chang's expression change. When he turned his head and saw Chen Bin, his heart suddenly thumped wildly. He quickly greeted him with a smile and said, "Boss, why didn't you inform me in advance that you're coming? I could have brought some people to greet you outside." Chen Bin coldly snorted with a sullen face and said, "Had I informed you in advance, I wouldn't have been able to see your lawless appearance, would I? It's not easy for the company to cultivate an excellent salesperson, yet you fired him with just a word? You even did it in front of the client. How awe-inspiring." Fang Chang's heart turned cold. As he was about to speak, he found that the boss didn't want to listen to him anymore. He quickly walked 2 steps to the young man sitting on the sofa. "Are you Mr. Tang?" Chen Bin came before Tan Xiu and respectfully asked. "Do you know me?" asked Tan Xiu in surprise. "Hello, Mr. Tang. I'm Chen Bin, the chairman of the Grand Group. This is my business card," said Chen Bin quickly. "Our salesperson has told me all the grievances you and this young lady have suffered here. You can rest assured that our company has clear rules and regulations. Whoever pays the money first will have the house. So you don't need to worry about the house. Also, I'd like to apologize to you and this young lady. I'll try my best to make up for the grievances you've suffered due to the management personnel of our company." "Oh? How do you want to make up for it?" A smile appeared on Tan Xiu's face. He stood up and shook hands with Chen Bin. He then motioned Mu Weining to sit down and gave the seat to Chen Bin. Chen Bin was somewhat flattered as he sat in front of Tan Xiu and said, "Mr. Tang, I'll directly fire the management personnel of our company. I'll also inform the real estate industry that he will be blacklisted by all major real estate companies in the future. This is your company's internal matter. It has nothing to do with us," said Tan Xiu. At the side, Fang Chang's complexion changed as he hurriedly shouted, "Boss, you can't fire me. I'm the sales department manager and I have the right to fire my employees. Also, I didn't offend these 2 clients." Chen Bin abruptly turned his head and angrily shouted, "Shut the hell up." Fang Chang's breathing stagnated and he didn't dare to speak again. Chen Bin immediately changed his expression and respectfully said, "Mr. Tang, to make up for the grievances you've suffered in our company, I've decided to sell the 9th building to you for 1 yuan. What do you think?" Tan Xiu was dumbfounded and Mu Weining also had an incredulous expression on her face. 1 yuan? 1 yuan to buy a luxury villa worth more than 60 million yuan? Is this some kind of international joke? At the side, Fang Chang looked at Chen Bin incredulously. He simply couldn't believe his ears. He could see that his big boss was not sick, but why? Li Jing was also shocked. She never dreamed that a simple phone call from her would cause the situation to become like this. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and asked, "Is it because of Han Jin Tong?" "Only part of the reason," said Chen Bin quickly. "What's the other reason?" Tan Xiu frowned. "He told me not to tell anyone about him, Mr. Tang," said Chen Bin hesitantly. "You're making things difficult for me." Tan Xiu said, "There's a saying that goes, no work, no gain. We're here to buy a villa, not because we can't afford it. You won't even tell us the whole story. Do you think we can easily accept your villa?" Chen Bin pondered for a moment and then helplessly said, "All right. Since you insist on asking, then I can only tell you. It's actually Brother Jean Xinkue. I just received a call from the salesperson, Li Jing. Brother Jean is talking to me about something." Tan Xiu suddenly understood. He looked at Mu Weining and then nodded, "I understand. Since this is Jean Xinkue's intention, then it's settled. You don't need to stay here. You can deal with your company's affairs by yourself. We'll buy the villa and then take care of other things later." Chen Bin quickly got up and said, "Please wait for a moment. I'll immediately send someone to handle the procedures for you." As everyone left, Mu Weining leaned toward Tan Xiu and held Tan Xiu's arm. She let out a faint smile and said, "Boyfriend, why do I suddenly have a feeling?" Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment. He glanced at Mu Weining's hand that was holding his arm and asked, "What feeling?" "I'm being kept by someone," said Mu Weining with a chuckle. Cough. Tan Xiu coughed twice and was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he said, "Don't talk nonsense. You're a rich woman now. Do you still need someone to keep you? What happened today was just an accident." "It's just an accident, yet it saved me more than 60 million yuan," said Mu Weining with a chuckle. Boyfriend, you really have a lot of power. Tan Xiao let out a forced smile and shook his head. He was thinking about what Jin Xinkue had paid for Chen Bin to sell a villa worth more than 60 million yuan. 10 minutes later, Li Jing came to Tan Xiao and Mu Weining with the purchase contract. At this moment, her attitude toward them had greatly changed. Her respect and cautiousness were proof that she was nervous inside. Quickly, after the contract was signed, Mu Weining searched for a long time but couldn't find a single yuan. Finally, Tan Xiao took out a yuan and handed it to her. He then said with a smile, "Don't be so reserved. We're not big tigers." "That's right. Have you completed the personnel changes in your company?" "It's done. Fang Chang has been fired and I've been promoted to the position of sales manager," said Li Jing gratefully. "Thank you, Mr. Tang, Miss Mu." "You're welcome." Tan Xiao waved his hand and said, "Your professionalism is quite good. However, I don't think Fang Chang is a good person, else he wouldn't deliberately make things difficult for a girl like you." Li Jing was almost moved to tears after hearing it. She came to this big city to live. She had made some achievements by relying on her own ability and even bought a small house with a mortgage. But she lived alone and had no one to help her in the face of difficulties. Today's encounter was the most heartwarming one she had ever had since she came to this city. "I'm really sorry. I finished writing this chapter last night. It was too late. I was so dazed that I forgot to update it on time. If it wasn't for the League's WeChat account, I wouldn't have known that I forgot to update it." Chapter 578. Tan Xiao waited for Mu Weining to sign the house purchase contract before the two of them directly left without even bidding farewell to Chen Bin. Although Tan Xiao was a bit indifferent to Chen Bin on the surface, he was still very grateful to him inside. On the way back, he called Jin Xinkue and thanked him. He told him that he would treat him to a drink tomorrow night and also told him to call Chen Bin. "Boyfriend, you're my idol now." Mu Weining grabbed the steering wheel and her eyes were full of splendor as she glanced at Tan Xiao. After seeing him hang up the phone, she said with a smile. Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, "You're the first beauty in the imperial capital and the first campus belle of Shanghai University, yet you actually regard me as your idol? That's my honor." "Then, do I have the honor to treat my idol to lunch?" Mu Weining said with a smile. "Of course. You saved a lot of money today, so you must treat me to a big meal." Tan Xiao nodded and said with a smile. "I've inquired about it. There's a new Paradise Manor in Shanghai recently. I heard that the dishes there are very special, and the most important thing is that the environment there is also very good. Let's go there to have a meal." "Paradise Manor?" Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment before he immediately said with a smile, "All right. That Paradise Manor is opened by Lulu, so maybe she can give us a discount." "Lulu? Ouyang Lulu?" Mu Weining had seen Ouyang Lulu, so her brows slightly furrowed. "Yeah, it's her," said Tan Xiao. Mu Weining pondered for a moment before she suddenly shook her head and said, "I've decided to treat you to a different place." But Tan Xiao was surprised. "Ouyang Lulu is too familiar with you, so I'm afraid that she won't accept the money like she did today," said Mu Weining with a straight face. "I said I'll treat you to a meal, so you're going to let me spend the money for today's meal, no?" Tan Xiao listened to Mu Weining's fallacy and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mu Weining glanced at Tan Xiao again, but she didn't speak again. She was very clear about one thing in her heart: Ouyang Lulu was Tan Xiao's confidant. Her family was a big clan in Jingmen Island, but she unexpectedly ran to Shanghai to open a restaurant. Perhaps, just like what she thought, she wanted to be closer to Tan Xiao in Shanghai. In other words, she was likely to be his competitor. In the end, Mu Weining picked a high-class restaurant in Shanghai and treated Tan Xiao to a feast. In terms of price, the two of them were even more extravagant with a 5-digit figure. Since they had classes in the afternoon, the two of them returned to Shanghai University after lunch. After agreeing to look for a renovation team together, they went their separate ways. Leisurely time always passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, Tan Xiao had been back from the capital for half a month. During this half a month, he occasionally went out to drink with Jin Xinkue and occasionally accepted Gu Changmin and Zhang Yueming's invitation to have a small gathering with them. Even Ouyang Lulu came to him a few times and pestered him for a few days. As for the rest of the time, he would attend classes at school when he had classes and teach Dai Xinyue about traditional Chinese medicine in Blue Star Villa Complex when he had no classes. Even at this time, he would cram on a lot of traditional Chinese medicine knowledge. The early morning sun was particularly bright and beautiful. After breakfast, Tan Xiao received a call from Kawako and learned that she had come to Shanghai. Tan Xiao asked her about her intentions in coming to Shanghai, but Kawako mysteriously kept him guessing. No classes on Saturday, no classes on Sunday, and no classes on Monday today. I've been staying at home for 2 days, so it's time to go out for a stroll. Tan Xiao stood on the balcony and Chen Xiaowan's appearance emerged in his mind. Since their last meeting, they hadn't seen each other in more than half a month, except for a casual chat on the phone. That's right. Sis Xiaowan seems to be working in the brisk trading group. Tan Xiao had thought about poaching Chen Xiaowan to work in the magnificent Tang Corp, but he hadn't found the right opportunity to mention it to her since they had just met. I'm going to find her. After making up his mind, Tan Xiao went downstairs to the garage and even picked the Agera R sports car. He was ready to play the role of a playboy to support his older sister. On the way to the brisk trading group, Tan Xiao thought about Sujinin again. Sujinin was working in the imperial capital now. Although her position and salary were quite good, she was just a senior white-collar worker, after all, and it was somewhat inappropriate for her to stay there alone. He was quite ruthless sometimes, but after his relationship with Sujinin in the imperial capital improved a bit, he had the idea to let Sujinin leave the imperial capital and work in the magnificent Tang Corporation. Not to mention that if it weren't for Sujinin, it would have been impossible for him to know Chen Xiaowan. Therefore, after hesitating for a while, he put on his Bluetooth headset and dialed Sujinin's number. "What's up?" Sujinin's cold voice came from the phone. However, Tang Xiao could tell from her words that she had saved his number. "How have you been recently? Did you suffer any grievances working in the imperial capital?" asked Tan Xiao. "Thanks to you, boss treats me very well now," said Sujinin. "It's not a long-term plan for you to work alone in the imperial capital," said Tan Xiao. "You can work in the magnificent Tang Corp if you want. Kong Xia has been preparing for a big move recently and has decided to set up branch offices in major provinces in the country. You can choose any province except the imperial capital and Shanghai to be the branch's general manager." Sujinin fell into silence. Although her job in the imperial capital was very good, she still felt a bit depressed. After all, she was all alone in the imperial capital. It was fine in normal times as she would occasionally go out with her friends. But every time she was sick and uncomfortable, she always hoped to have her loved ones by her side. Especially last week, when she had a bad cold and was lying in bed, no one even brought her a bottle of water. Even at that time, she suddenly felt that even if Tan Xiao was there, she would still feel a trace of warmth. Looking at Sujinin's silence, Tan Xiao lightly said, "You don't need to rush to give me an answer. After all, the establishment of the branch offices in each province has yet to be officially scheduled. I'm afraid it will take another 10 days. Just think about it and tell me when you've made up your mind." "All right." Sujinin let out an imperceptible grunt. "Let me tell you something," said Tan Xiao. "I met Sis Xiaowan in Shanghai." "Chen Xiaowan?" Sujinin stared blankly and hurriedly asked. "That's right. She works in a foreign-funded enterprise in Shanghai," said Tan Xiao. "Can you give me her contact number?" Sujinin quickly said, "We separated after graduating from high school. We occasionally contacted each other during college, but we eventually broke off contact due to various reasons. I wanted to find her after graduation, but I found that she had changed her contact number." "All right, I'll send it to your cell phone later." After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiao sent Chen Xiaowan's cell phone number to Sujinin. At the brisk trading group, Chen Xiaowan was in a very bad mood. Sitting in the office chair, she looked at the angry expression of her boss who parachuted into the company. She was disheartened. As the vice president of the Human Resources Department, she was appreciated by her previous boss and usually worked very comfortably. But just over a week ago, her immediate boss resigned from the position of the Human Resources Department's general manager due to illness and strongly recommended her to the company's top management to be the Human Resources Department's general manager. Unfortunately, the sudden appearance of a general manager made her unable to get the opportunity to be promoted. It would have been fine if it was only this. But the most depressing thing was that this general manager who parachuted into her position was her archenemy during college, the former vice president of the student union, Miao Xinran. You're abusing your position to avenge a private grudge. Chen Xiaowan suppressed her anger and looked at Miao Xinran, whose hands were pressed on her desk. Chen Xiaowan, please don't be so narrow-minded. Miao Xinran angrily said. The grudge between us in the past was indeed because your ability was better and you finally became the student union president. But that's all in the past and I've long forgotten about it. Now, I'm the Human Resources Department's general manager of the Brisk Trading Group, while you're just the vice president, my subordinate. I have the right to arrange your work. After saying that, the anger on Miao Xinran's face suddenly subsided by more than half. Instead, there was a trace of pride on her face as she said, "Who told you not to have the ability to marry a good man? My husband is the vice president of the Brisk Trading Group. He's very powerful and has a deep background in Japan. But what about you? I heard that you got dumped by a wild man not long ago, right? I can still see the color of the green hat on your head." You bastard. Chen Xiaowan suddenly got up and angrily cursed. Miao Xinran sneered, "What's wrong? Are you angry out of shame? Let me tell you, I need to send some people to the Western Branch. I know the conditions there are a bit hard, but the welfare and benefits are not reduced. So, you have to go even if you don't want to. Otherwise, pack your things and get the hell out of here." After saying that, she didn't give Chen Xiaowan time to speak. She raised her chin and walked outside with her hateful high heels. Chen Xiaowan gasped for a few breaths and an unwilling look appeared in her eyes. It was very difficult to be promoted in a Japanese company, unless one's performance was particularly outstanding. Only then would there be a very small chance of being promoted. She had worked herself to death and achieved good results before she was barely promoted to the position of vice president of the Human Resources Department. But now, she knew that she couldn't stay here any longer. She didn't want to leave Shanghai. Had it been more than half a month ago, she might have considered going to the Western region. But now, she was no longer alone in Shanghai. She also had her little brother, Tenxiu. Ring, ring, ring. Her cell phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Chen Xiaowan picked up the phone and looked at the caller ID. She found that it was an unfamiliar number from the imperial capital. She wanted to hang up, but she hesitated and adjusted her mood. After picking up the call, she said, "Who is it, Xiaowan?" "Xiaowan?" Sujinin's voice came from the phone. Chen Xiaowan was startled. The voice was somewhat familiar, but she couldn't remember who it was for a while. Just as she wanted to ask who the other party was, Sujinin's appearance suddenly appeared in her mind. Suddenly, her mood fluctuated. With a trace of expectation and excitement, she tentatively asked, "Yenning? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."